starting a minute or so early this morning. I was like, there's two options. You either just hit the button now or I just sit here and allow my nerves just to start kicking up more than they necessarily need to. So good morning, everybody. We got Greg Glassman coming on this morning. And originally when Sevan let me know that he was traveling today and asked me if I was able to do the show, I said, sure. And he said, hey, what if we just keep Greg on and you and Greg just rock it out together? And at first I was like instantly terrified, right? Oh, fuck, what if I screw it up? But then I was like, all right, you know what? What if I just use this time like completely selfishly to find out everything I wanted to know about the origin story of the L1 and about CrossFit in general? Because a lot of times we look at things as to like where they are now and, you know, where they've been, but we oftentimes like forget the very, very beginning of everything. Like how did it start? Like who's employee one? Like was the intention to scale the company, of course? Like when did he decide to form it into a seminar? What articles did he use to choose? How many iterations did he go through of the L1 handbook? Like when did the L2 form? How'd you become a flow master in the early days? Like, or just a L1 staff seminar? Like when did they start to have a hierarchy with like flow master, L1 seminar, and intern, if you will, right? Was there a pecking order? Was there initiation process? You know, how did they like push people out that basically weren't a fit? Like all these kind of cool things that oftentimes get forgotten as the years go on and get kind of blinded by success. We start to think like, oh, CrossFit always was. It always was awesome. It always was magnificent. We came into it with the L1 and we like forget some of the stuff was where it went. So, and we'll see where the conversation goes. Maybe Greg will have any of it and be like, yeah, we're going to take it this way. And I'm along for the ride. Good morning, Grace. Good morning, Ken. Leave some surprises. Oh, I'm sure there'll be lots of surprises. Plus two, I'm kind of just talking this out with you guys before he hops on. Good morning, Jake. Good morning, Seema. I texted you back, by the way. Rich, what's up? And I also want to let you guys know, like, thank you. Like, thank you for showing up at 7 a.m. every morning. Thank you for being a part of the membership. Like, thank you for trusting in us. Thank you for believing in us. And without you guys, we would be nothing. And I know Sevan says it a little bit on the show, or quite a bit on the show. And I just wanted to say it from me directly before we got started this morning. So thank you guys. Greg.
Buddy, how are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you doing, sir?
Doing good, bud. Doing good.
I like
I'm up in Idaho.
Awesome. Is it pretty crazy out there, the weather? Did you guys get hit with a snowstorm?
It is right now. We're in the middle of a beginning of a blizzard.
Oh, okay. You enjoying it?
You know, that's like what, by my Santa Cruz and Scottsdale standards, San Diego standards. What do I know from a blizzard, right?
Yeah. Anytime it drops below 50, I'm like, oh, I don't know how people live on these places.
I was with Maggie outside of a new restaurant just opened up in Scottsdale. And there's some guy standing there and he says, I don't know if I can handle another 2 or 3 weeks of this fucking weather. And it was like 58 degrees, right?
Yeah. He's like, I have to wear 2 sweatshirts. This is just crazy. It's out of hand.
Hilarious. He gets soft quickly.
That is true.
You know,
that is true.
In reference to the temperature and it happens quick and light.
Yeah. It was funny. I was talking with Grace, my wife's grandmother, and we were saying, you know, oh, she's busy with school and, you know, there's a new baby and stuff. And we're just trying to get through it. She pauses for a minute. She goes, wow, it sure doesn't take much for you young people to suffer, huh?
Perfect.
So, Greg, I wanted to chat with you. You know, when Sevan originally said, hey, can you would you mind doing the show and we'll keep Greg on? Instantly, I got a little nervous because I was like, oh shit, I don't want to screw this up. The show that you guys always do together is so awesome and I always gain so much from it. But then I started thinking like, you know what if I just use this time selfishly to find out everything I ever wanted to know of the origin story of CrossFit in the L1 and the steps that you took to make it the incredible global storm that it took. And so that's what we'll chat about a little bit. But I want to just real quickly touch on something you said probably about 5 or 6 episodes ago that I have not been able to get out of my head ever since. And we were talking, you and Sevan were talking a little bit about some of the new hires that was happening over at CrossFit, and you said something that very simple but incredibly profound. And you said they have nothing to offer you. And you, meaning the affiliate owners, myself, a 10-year affiliate owner, these other affiliate owners. And, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, but when you put it that way, it was like a, oh shit moment. And I was thinking, oh shit.
And let me, before I double down and own that completely, and I have no choice. It's fairly self-referential. Remember, I set up an affiliate program that I'd participate in.
Yep.
I put together a seminar that, man, I wish I'd gone to this. It would have been well worth $1,000 if someone had pointed me in this direction long ago. And I built a gym that I would join. And what they have now is a structure I wouldn't participate in. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't offer anybody anything. There might be people that now finally got ourselves some equity and diversity and inclusiveness going on. I'm really happy. So there's always going to be an element that's more than content. I would not be. And it would have been for me as simple as there's a whole bunch of things, but the one that would pain me every time I paid my fees would be the settling of the NSCA case. That would be it for me. It's enough for me to distrust the owners. How could I possibly trust them? How could I possibly after that? What did you settle for? How much money did you get? And what'd you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
And before we still don't know what happened. And here we are facing the same issue again, the licensure. And what's the response? Nothing. So it's a personal thing. Yeah, me, I'd be done.
Well, and I think that's why it hit me as hard as it is, because I'm obviously in that camp. And I made a video on when they closed the NSCA case. And for me, I knew that was going to be kind of a tipping point. It was almost the beginning of the end before anybody else realized it, for those exact reasons. Like, why would you seal it? Why wouldn't, I knew that when you were doing it and going after the NSCA, like, you were going to take it all the way there. You were going to make sure you were going to make sure that corruption could not continue to go. And you were going to slowly, as you said, correct the public record, but unwind everything that they have sunk so deeply into.
Imagine it turns out that Safeway is poisoning their customers and Vons wants to help them keep it a secret. I can't conceive of it. I've sat with some of the world's best attorneys, and mine are the Latham Watkins guys. Those are the best attorneys on God's earth. And we've tossed the ball back and forth and explained, tell me what possibly could be how are you meeting your fiduciary obligation in bearing this suit?
Yeah.
What conceivably would that be? You can't paint a pretty picture on it. Of course, it reminds me of Pfizer wanting to unseal the data in 75 years. Yeah. Like, I'm not confused as to why you want to do that. It's not because it's so fucking good we wouldn't be able to deal with it.
Yeah. It's
right?
Not gonna take
you can drop that. It's such a good fucking vaccine that you'll have a heart attack just finding out how good it is.
Oh my God. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And this
is hidden because it would be hugely fucking embarrassing.
Yes.
That's why I got hidden.
And
I got little kids when their backs turned to you and they're bent over and you go, what are you doing? And they stiffen up and nothing. There's something there.
You open the door and all of them freeze and look at you real quick. Yeah. Caught in the act. And yeah, I felt the same way with it, because one of the things that connected me mostly to CrossFit as I started to mature in CrossFit, I found it from a military buddy. He was in the military. We started doing it. He got deployed, and selfishly, I looked at him like, Kenny, who's going to program my workouts, man? Why, not of course worried he was off to war, but more so about my workouts. Right. And he looks at me and he goes, dude, it's called CrossFit.com. Just go look it up. And that was it. As soon as I found the website and the journal, I religiously took and consumed every single piece of content in that thing. And I would sit there like a kid on Christmas every single day at 4:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So the workout of the day would get posted, the new article would get posted, the workout demo would get posted, and I would just consume it. And I knew that there was something there that once you start to read it, it doesn't take you long to realize, holy shit, this is it. This is different. And it feels right in terms of setting people's health back on a way that is going to keep them healthy. It's going to keep them moving, and it's going to bring a lot of longevity and happiness in terms of what they get out of their life and for the long term.
Yeah, I used to tell people you could look in the mirror every morning and every evening and take 10 minutes telling yourself, this will never work. This will never work. This will never work. And one morning or one evening, you're going to look in the mirror and go, fuck, but it is. I mean, you can't hide this from yourself even.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a trainer, and I'll often see something before the client will. For instance, if I make you a meal plan and I see you a week later and you don't look different, something's not going right. So like, how's it going? Like, what's up? What have you been doing? And get to the bottom of it kind of quickly. You say, well, as a matter of fact, I didn't get started. I didn't have the car on Wednesday. Didn't make my normal grocery. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, if it's a once a week kind of person, I didn't have a lot of those, but I had enough. I learned a lot from them. And it was all fun. It was all interesting. But the dynamic impact, the positive dynamic impact is undeniable.
Yeah, completely. I mean, it completely changed my life prior to CrossFit. As I was figuring my way out, I was never would have considered myself a business owner. I was somebody that was always put in the dummy classes and made my way through high school due to my personality and wit. I would say more so than the education. But the funny part is once my schooling stopped, my education started. And it happened through the path of CrossFit because it set me on. I wanted more out of it, and then a second I realized, oh shit, there's an L1 to this thing. I saved up all my pennies and I got my tax return. And the second that check hit my bank account, bam, I bought my ticket to the L1, and it completely changed the course of my life in ways that were unimaginable. And that was through the methodology that you created and through that seminar that you created. And I'm not sure if I got to say it to you in person, but thank you. I mean,
you're very welcome. Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah,
it means a lot.
I just can't tell you how much it means to me, and how much I know it means to thousands and thousands and thousands, and if not millions of people who have gone through that same process that I have. And one of the questions that I have too is, who'd you first write your article for? Like, as soon as you put pen to paper and started your first one, who did you have somebody in mind as to a person you were writing for? Was it for you?
I had clients hounding me about a newsletter, and you got to write this stuff down. You need to write a book. I had clients pestering me about getting a website, and I was like, "What the fuck do I need a website for?" Ben Ellizer made a website for me, and I said, "I guess I could put workouts up on it." And it was Mike Bender, who had won the toughest comp alive and remains a friend to this day, who told me that he reserved www.crossfit.com. So no one would take that. And I'm like, okay, what do I need that for? And that's when there was an eFit, iFit, all these. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was pioneer days, early internet. And I didn't see any sense to it, really. So it wasn't, the first affiliate was the first affiliate's idea. The first seminar, I got a call from two guys at DOJ that wanted to come out and get a seminar on my method. And I told him we don't have one. He says, well, I can't come out and learn your method unless I can come back with a certification. Mm. And so I was like, all right, we'll do it. went to the stationery store on my bike, and they had a file of forms, and we found a certification that had a big gold star on it. It looked pretty cool. It's like on parchment, right?
It's like one of the things you get in grade school.
Yeah, and then that's right, same fucking thing. And then we found who had the best handwriting that could do some semblance of calligraphy on this fucking thing. And these two guys came out from the Department of Justice. One of them remains a friend to this day and had a rather meteoric career afterwards. But what we did to those guys over 3 days was just brutal. It's a miracle I didn't kill them. I mean, we had to put them back on an airplane with a spatula, you know? I mean, these poor fucking guys. I think they did every named workout in 2 days' time. It was, oh yeah. And like, as soon as you're done throwing up, you got to sit in your chair again. I'm going to lecture you some more. And at the point they were cross-eyed from them. And I was going to in 2 days teach them everything I knew.
Wow.
And so it was, I mean, they left with 20 pages of notes and bloody hands and shaking and having trouble walking. And it was, but one of them, Ted had tried to get into FBI Academy over and over and over again and kept fucking up on the physical, on the test. And this is a guy that was like a black belt in jiu-jitsu, you know? But he couldn't pass the FBI's test to get in. And after some CrossFit, he had no problem getting in. And not only did he get into the academy, but he won the director's fitness medal. He was the fittest guy. So a guy that couldn't get into the fittest guy there. And he later became personal security detail to the attorney general. And there was a neat moment where Gonzalez was kind of passed out on his feet and tipped over backwards. And Ted jumped from behind the curtain and caught him, and was also in the midst of drawing a weapon. He thought maybe the guy had been shot or something, but he just saw him rolling back on his heels and going down. and on live television, fetched the guy, caught him. Neat guy, anyways. Good story, good people. But those were the recipients of the first seminar.
Wow.
And then someone said they wanted me to do another one for that again for a Justice Department. It was a National Police Corps program that had offices at Jacksonville Sheriff's Academy. And I went there by myself, and they brought me like 75 guys. And all they had were dumbbells, no barbells. Oh, it was horrible. And then in the middle of that seminar, someone comes in and says there's a group of generals at Eglin at the Air Force Base, and or somewhere like that, and they want to see you immediately. You need to stop the seminar and come and talk to these generals. All my hosts agreed, you have to go now. So I got in a cop car with TJ Cooper, and I think we went 120 miles an hour in emergency lane to this Air Force Base. I mean, it was crazy. It's crazy days. But none of that was my idea. I didn't know what the National Police Corps was, and I didn't know anyone at DOJ. And you know how they got me? The phone rang. We had a phone on the wall. And the only reason we had a phone on the walls is only about maybe 5% of my clients had cell phones. Okay. And I needed a phone on the wall in case someone fell out, you know? You don't want to do that to someone and then not be able to call 911. That would be horrific, right?
The lifeline.
Now it's a defibrillator. But the phone rang, which was odd, and I'm staring at it, and it never rang. And I answered, and it was Charlie Sims from the Department of Justice.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
And at that time, did you have a collection of articles at that point? Was there a lot of pen to paper when you started that first seminar?
The website, the first seminars, and the journal all happened in about an 18-month period. Okay. And the first affiliate. So it was all going on at once. And the foundations page was written for the website early. And there's a lot there. There's a lot of material there. The essence of it.
Mm-hmm. And did you just compile it already to present, or did you kind of have in your mind, was there a game plan coming into some of these first seminars?
In my head, in very different language that I can sum it up now, but I had a powerful conviction that constantly varied high intensity functional movement would increase work capacity across broad time and modal domains. In other words, I couldn't think of an activity that wouldn't be enhanced by working out in this manner. And I've been having those discussions with other trainers in Gold's Gym in Venice and in Santa Clarita. And I had some friends that didn't train but trained smart and were smart that were very receptive to my argument. And we were testing that out kind of in the sly all the time, doing things like taking a row of machines at a place like Gold's Gym in Venice, claiming a bank, tell everyone, leave these alone, it's mine, and put the pin about halfway down and ask for 15 reps on 15 machines, right? And we're doing this for time. And I had a friend who later came to work for CrossFit who did this one time at Gold's Gym in Venice. And he went down the row, and on the last 15 reps, he jumped up and ran out the door and then took off out of the parking lot with his tire screeching. And I was like, and of course, it's pre-cell phone, right? I have to wait till I see him again to find out what the fuck happened. He got off that last machine. This John Kramer, you know John?
I don't know.
Fucking John jumped in his car. He had a Cougar, Mercury Cougar, a blue one. Tires squealing, tears out of the parking lot. He went right to either St. Joe's or St. John's to the hospital and ran into the emergency room and told him he thought he was dying. It's a true fucking story.
That's when you know the workouts are really effective, huh?
Yeah. And I'm like, wow, you know? Everyone in the gym watched it too. Like, what the fuck was that? What were you doing? What happened? Is he okay? I'm like, I have no answers. I'll call him at home tonight.
Yeah, you had to wait until you got back to the landline. That I guess was when patience as a virtue started to slowly leave us as we had the cell phone and the instant contacts, right?
I got people hunt me down through Maggie and tell me, dude, I texted you 3 fucking hours ago.
Okay.
Yeah. I give her number out for everything because her phone's always handy like in her hand.
Yeah.
Perfect. In case of emergency, call Maggie.
That's the straight line to you, huh?
Yep.
When in doubt. Well, who was your first client that you were training?
I can't name a first. It was a fairly seamless transition, though. Much of my gymnastics career, I was also training and coaching gymnastics. And to go from that environment to the Gold's Gym environment was pretty natural thing for me. And I had discovered weights as an adjunct to my gymnastics training as a teenager, and was confident in what could be done with dumbbells, barbells, in terms of securing the strength moves of gymnastics. And so I had gym memberships and all my own gear and kind of interface with that crowd early. Why I'm having trouble with this is there were people that were working out with me, and I think I was training them. And I would mention John Kramer again, who was an early guinea pig. You know? He and I, as teens, were riding our bikes to Family Fitness Center.
Wow. And was training with dumbbells and barbells, was that happening a lot in gymnastics?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But the progression to all of the great strength moves in gymnastics on the rings, I used dumbbells as an adjunct and pulley system, and it was pretty easy, really.
Yeah. That when you did start training people, did you ever have a first client that came up that was like, because I know you trained a lot of Olympians and different things like that in the past. Did you have the first client where you got a little nervous and said, oh shit, I better not mess them up? Or by that time, were you pretty confident in the results from what you were seeing to know that they were going to have a massive benefit from training this way?
I don't know, but I just flashed. I had a general get word to me that if I hurt one of his air conditioning techs, out in Al Assad, and they pointed out who they were. These are the AC guys. If something happens to one of them, you'll never get home. And so they had to watch. I deputized them, and they helped set up.
Those guys are important out there. I'll tell you. Once they
didn't care. He didn't care about anybody else. Do whatever you want to. Fuck them. It's these guys.
Don't screw up the AC guys.
Yep.
Middle of the summer, it gets hot out there, man.
No,
Yeah.
but I've had things. I was training the some of the world's best in jiu-jitsu. I mean, BJ Penn counts, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I had a list of martial artists when I got a short-term contract for the Greek national basketball team. And there was an awkward moment when the Greeks discovered that they were doing the jiu-jitsu workout. And they thought they were doing the basketball program. And one of them had already told me that it was making a difference for him. It was unbelievable. And I asked for evidence of that. And he said for the first time just a few weeks ago, he got the view of looking down through the rim. He'd never had his eyeballs above the rim. And he saw down into the hole. And he'd never had that experience before.
Wow.
And so I had to tell him, what's it matter what program you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all the same. Yeah, you're doing the jiu-jitsu program. And get back to work.
And when did the nutrition piece become an element? Was that pretty quickly
from the start? From the start.
And was
I learned from the bodybuilding community the upsides of carb restriction. Say what you want about bodybuilders, and I've had more than my share of poking at them. But I tell you, the response from that community, they've always been good to me, really. I was the only person that ever got to train Dave Draper's wife, other than himself, Larry Draper. He trusted me with that. He had nothing but kind things to say about me. But they're not fooled by nutrition. Not in the least. He passed away recently.
Mm. Wow,
He was a special person. He was a special person. When I got kicked out of my last commercial facility in Santa Cruz, Dave offered to take me in. So I burned the Gold's Gym Bridge. I burned the Spa Fitness. The Spa Fitness Center threw me out. And Dave says, you can come to my gym. And I said, nah, Dave, because I cherish the friendship. People would say shitty things about me on the internet, and he'd come on and straighten them out. He was that brave and bold and very well known, and I was unknown. And Josh Webster was like that for me amongst mill guys. Would get on and tell about his background experiences, citations, commendations, and experience. And he'd get almost anyone to back off, like at Ranger.com,
Mm-hmm.
Here comes Josh Webster to the rescue. But Dave had been such a good guy that I didn't want to damage the relationship. And I felt certain that what was going on is because I had it explained to me by the directors at Spa Fitness. They had showed me a graph of their training revenue and what it had been if they could take it back 15, 20 years. Look, here's when you showed up. And they were taking a third of my revenue, and Alvin Morales and I were taking all the best clients. And so we went from nothing to having, 50 clients each in a matter of a month or two. And it had a huge impact on them. And then we started, as if that weren't enough, now we're doing group classes in the commercial gym, right? And so I'm thinking, yeah, I could take all the training clients. And he explained to me, you've submarined our training program. You've got to go. I'm so sorry. And then he wanted to set me up. He goes, I've seen how you work. You don't need much space or gear. And yeah, that's right. You could do it in the garage. And he says, well, let me help you. And I go, okay, that's cool. But the fucking guy wanted to take me to Los Gatos, like a stray cat you'd catch. It's been
taking us far away.
Yeah, you take it, move it to a new city.
And hope it doesn't find its way back, right?
Right.
That was the goal. So as you were kind of moving along, at what point did you realize with the seminar, oh shit, I'm going to need to do more of these. The demand for them was outpacing your ability to run all of them. And I guess the follow-up to that is, how many did you do before you started to take yourself out of it and replace it with somebody else who was going to lead it?
It was a couple of years, and at the point that we're doing them every single weekend, and I'm traveling a lot. I started thinking of another approach. And I remember the first one that I did in Santa Cruz. I stayed in Santa Cruz. I didn't leave, and I had others do it. And I left just before it started, was driving home, and turned around and went back, and didn't go in, but turned around and went back home again. I mean, I was that torn. It was a hard thing to do, to pull myself away.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest part of growing any business is the realities of being a bricklayer is a very different thing than teaching someone to lay bricks. And what you need to do is be able to replace yourself, and ideally find someone to do what you do, but do it even better than you did it. And boy, if you can create a storm of that nature, you'll have something that grows. You also, on the flip side of that, you'll see when someone was vital to the structure, to the organizational structure, and then everything they can contribute ends up being done by someone else who does it better, or professionally, or in mass. And so you have to say goodbye to a lot of accounting people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we took a small accounting firm, became started as an insignificant part of its business, and then we were 95% of it 3 to 5 years later, where there's been a half a dozen hires just to work on the CrossFit account. And so then the CPA firm becomes CrossFit's accounting team, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
he said when he first met me that I told him he was going to say CrossFit over the door sometime. I was just fucking with him, I didn't really conceive of that, but that is how that played out.
Yeah, that's incredible, because basically it started out as like you hired them, and next thing you know, they're like, hey, we're having to hire more and more people as yours is growing so much so that we're no longer its own entity. You're just the sole client now.
That's exactly how it worked out. And Matt's with me to this day, and when I left, when I sold, I took both airplanes, the intellectual property, their licensees, not me, and the accountant.
The intellectual property.
Yeah, I own my IP, everything I wrote, so I can do with it as I wish.
Hold on.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And they told me too when we were negotiating. They go, "No, you don't understand." All the lawyers laugh. That's not how it works. And I laugh. Oh, you don't understand. This is how it will work. And the rationale is, I don't want them to disallow my use, and so they can use it in perpetuity. And the challenge would be for me to stop them, but they don't have any grounds on which to stop my use.
So they can put your fitness in 100 words on the back of a CrossFit t-shirt, and if you do it, if you wanted to do the same thing, they can't stop you from doing it.
That's right.
Got it.
Wow. That's incredible. And you know what? That makes me very happy to hear at the same time. Very happy to hear.
Yeah, I couldn't give that up.
When you were developing your trainers, like your seminar staff, like, so when you started to, I guess, stop teaching seminars, what was the process in developing your seminar staff? So was it like when you had your first seminar and you just like beat the shit out of them for 3 days and they're like, hey, now you can teach it? Or
time? What you did is you'd be the setup guy. I mean, Dave was my first setup guy, and he was asked if he could come to a cert, and I said for sure, and I won't charge you. He was cute, he walked in, he goes, "I'm a Navy SEAL." And I go, "Is that right?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm on the I'm on one of the colored teams, not the numbered teams.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh shit, one of those SEALs, you know? He goes, yeah. So he came to the seminar, and Nicole was my demo girl. I delivered all the lectures, and after the seminar, he wanted to know if he could come to another one. And I said, absolutely. He goes, I helped you set up. I saw what you did. Because like I'd say, okay, you got a 10-minute bathroom break, and I'm dragging plow boxes, rowers, and shit around setting up for Fight Gone Bad.
Mm-hmm.
So Dave was my setup guy. And what an ease that really helped. I could talk to people that had already gone to the bathroom, you know, before we'd start. And there was a point where we were traveling. Like I'd have it was me, Nicole, and 3 SEALs. For the team. And they would, when breakout sessions in groups, they could help coach moves. But Nicole and I would demo and instruct everything, and I'd deliver all the lectures. Then a point came where hey, you want to do the nutrition lecture? And we videotaped all of them. There are several years of CrossFit L1s on videotape. Yeah. And the people that were going to do a up would have a chance to watch the videotapes. And it was funny to sit in on a nutrition lecture and hear some of my corny jokes and delivered with consummate skill, as if they just thought of it themselves, you know? I mean, it was really good performance. We never allowed any kind of a presentation tools. If you can't do it on a chalkboard, fuck you. You know, you're not ready for prime time. If you need PowerPoint, you need the internet, you're not good to go. And the way that paid off in the and I don't even want to start naming names because I'll forget someone, but there are more than a score of world-class presenters on that L1 team. That's what's left of the business. The rest looks to be in a state of irreparable rot.
I would completely agree with that. And actually, Caleb just completed his second time. He's had the L1, but went back and redid the L1 with your dad and your wife.
My dad and my wife took it together. So my dad, he listens to the show, and so we're always spouting off how everybody should take their level 1. And so he said, all right, well, fine, I'll take it. He's not really doing much anything else. So, and it's a weekend thing. So he's like, does anybody else want to do it? I was like, sure, I'll do it with you. And then he's like, does anybody else want to do it? And then I looked at my wife, and my wife's like, sure. So then all 3 of us go to this level 1. And Joe Westerlin was the instructor. Him and her name is Jess. I can't remember her last name. But I remember Joe when I took it the first time at CrossFit Omaha when he owned that affiliate before Stacy took it over. He didn't teach at that time. It was Chase Ingram. But it sounded the exact same this time than it did when I took it 6.5, 7 years ago. It was like I'd been transported back in time. It was the same exact, it was 2 different people, same exact presentation, and I still got just as much out of it. It was pretty incredible, actually.
Yeah, the different ups, we call them. They're known segments, you know. It's kind of like the Stones doing Brown Sugar. I mean, it's just you never get tired of it, really. It's not like that. Mm-hmm. And the soon enough, you become sensitive to the quality of the reception. You can see it on people's faces. You know, the aha moments. Mm-hmm. Everyone looks down at once and writes. You're like, yeah, and they look up and they're smiling, and you're like, good, we got this going. You know, it's performance art, without a doubt.
Yeah,
I'm dealing right now. Like we all watched my dad deliver on p-values at the health conference, and I mean, I pull a cheek muscle just thinking about it. It was so fucking bad in everyone's estimation. And like the problem was, and this is the problem with most problems. The first step is you got to give a fuck, and I don't think anyone gave a fuck. And here's this guy, and we're just like, dude. I go, yeah, I live with this. I mean, I've heard this a million times. And now it's my job. And so the challenge is I have to talk to people about p-values without everyone rolling their eyes and going to sleep and like, dude, listen to this fucking guy. He actually thinks about this shit. And how do you do it? How do you do it? I think it can be done. I think I'm close. But the point from which I understood the problem, which I think, and what I need to do is I need to be able to explain it to a middle school kid, so that they have something they can lock onto, repeat, think about, add on to, and watch. It's not an easy task to do. It's not an easy task to do. I'll have a house full of teenagers here shortly. I do now. I've got some of my older kids here, and I'm half tempted to sit down to them and talk to them about broken science. That's the real test.
And just practice on explaining all that to them so that they would understand it and be able to regurgitate it.
The challenge is in simplifying, to not simplify to the point of saying something that's not true.
Right. Yeah. It's still got to remain, the essence of it still has to remain while being able to be absorbed by an audience that maybe isn't familiar with the material ahead of time.
That's right. That's right. And my goal with these new seminars is I want to inspire and deliver a pathway to a life of learning. You know, and the L1's that way too. I mean, look, you take the L1 seminar, and for the next 3 years, it all becomes clear in application. Yes. Damn. Right. Yeah. Oh. Right.
Yep. Absolutely. And I honestly think one of the more profound things of it was the fact that you started by defining so everybody was on the same sheet of music. And that had never been done in the fitness realm ever before. And I think understanding that piece of it is probably more important now than ever, as we're seeing definitions erode. And there's a thing, and can't tell you how many times I watched it, and you said it was a discussion on intensity. And you go, so what's intensity? You go, I got the bodybuilders grunting and screaming, and they're going, that's intense. And I got my endurance people running 100 miles, and they're saying, man, that was intense. And I got my yogis holding a stretch saying, man, that's intense. And everybody's nodding their head saying, yeah, we need more intensity, but nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about because it's messy. Everybody's bringing their own definition to the table.
Same experience with functional fitness.
Right.
I'm sitting at a functional fitness seminar hosted by the Marine Corps in Quantico, and everyone's there to talk about functional fitness. There's no two people with the same concept in their mind. They're just they share the terminology. That's it. Right.
Now, when you were starting and you were building the staff for the seminar, and you had mentioned that it was Nicole was helping you out as one of the first ones. How did she come into the picture? When did she come into the picture?
Her boyfriend brought her around, and she was hot and a good athlete. The first seminar that she sat through, check this out. She was taking notes more faster and more furiously than anyone there. Just constantly looking, writing. So during the break, I went over to her notebook and just kind of flipped it open, and she was drawing pictures of us all. Like courtroom sketches.
Wow.
Yeah. She didn't hear a fucking thing. I caught Sevan in a meeting while I'm talking. He's making a turkey out of tracing his hand on a piece of on his paper. We provided notepads and paper for everyone. And fucking Sevan's making a fucking turkey. Like he's like a 3-year-old. I take it from him and show everyone, look at this fucking guy still.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think that answers Stephen Flores' question for $2 here. Greg, do you remember Sevy's first L1 seminar? Yeah. He's still got the turkey on his refrigerator there, Stephen. Oh man.
Does he? I bet he does. Hey, I remember a seminar with Allison Bishop and Sevan. And Sevan was doing this series where he challenged chicks to workouts and they'd beat them. You remember any of that?
Yep. And I remember too, you had like Nicole with the overhead squat, out squatting SEALs and UFC fighters and things like that as well.
I wonder if Sevy's listening to this on the road. I need permission from him to tell a story.
I think he is. And we do have the call line open. So if anybody wants to call in and test that, we could
He commented this earlier. I don't know who that is, but
I got my first and best just super dose of Sevan at a certain Pittsburgh. And Allison Bishop was sitting there too. And Sevy's just rich. He's the best. I love that kid. He's like no other. I was talking to someone recently about this kind of everyone else has an authenticity index, and it's I can gauge it by how much of your efforts in action, behavior, looks, style, everything, just everything about you, how much of it is designed or serves to give impression rather than just to make you comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So when Travis Bajan tells me that, he goes, I'm just like a chick, dude. He goes, if I like to wear a pair of shoes, fucking look, I don't care what my feet feel like. They could be hurting so bad, every step is excruciating. If I like them, I'm fucking wearing them. And I got none of that in me, man. None of that in me. Not even a little bit. I admire it. It's like, wow,
Yeah. So
Sevy's authentic as fuck.
That is true. That is very true.
He's they could probably identify in an MRI someplace in the intracranial vault where inhibition lives, and like you just wouldn't say something like that with in front of your grandma kind of thing,
right?
And he just got none of that.
Yeah.
None of that.
It's funny. I always tell him, I said, your mom watches the show, and sometimes he's like, oh, just don't remind me of that. I just block that out and I keep going. I go, okay, because you would have to, because some of the discussions we have on here might not be suitable for Rosemary. So, Greg, once you started to build the staff for the seminar there, you've always talked about pursuing excellence rather than the pursuit of money. And one of the things that took me a really long time, and I sure I don't have it fully grasped, is you said at CrossFit, we're not building a skyscraper, we're caretakers of a forest. And so the question that I have is, like, as it started to build up and your staff started to build up, were you ever like, okay, cool, we're taking this thing to scale? Was any of that in your mind, or were you just continuing to meet the demand that was out there for the seminar?
Continuing to meet the demand. There was never a sight or a thought about the marginal count, the next one. And so at the point of 5 affiliates, my assumption is it's probably going to be all we'll ever have. And I'm okay with it. No one was ever hired. This was a discussion Tony Budding and I had over and over and over and over again. And I said, your job is to be a friend to the affiliates, to call them up, talk to them, see how they're doing, ask questions, listen. It's the easiest thing in the world. You just have to care about how they're doing and be there for them, and let me know of what you find out and what's going on. Just keep a pipeline open so they know they have access. And Tony couldn't get it out of his head that he was there to impart his unprecedented business acumen. And just reminded myself of the fucking grid league. That was an obvious colostomy from the first moment, first concept.
Yep.
Yeah. Bastardization of functional fitness, some might say.
Yeah.
I mean, they flushed like $25 million down the toilet.
Mm-hmm. I remember, and the reason why I was laughing so hard was because that was something that came to mind when you had mentioned Tony Buddy, because I remember that as well too. And I remember seeing the first one, and they're racing down those lines, and I turned to Grace and I go, "Oh fuck, that ain't gonna work." Like, you know why? Is because it reminds me of like this something you would see on ABC's Gladiator or something. It was too gimmicky. It wasn't although they are doing, movements that we'll see inside CrossFit gyms, it wasn't an expression of fitness, in my opinion. It was an expression of almost like a Cirque du Soleil type than it was when it was a claim to making the fittest on earth. Like that shit. The toe to bar muscle up and
triple touch, double touch, whatever.
yeah. Yeah.
Brian Mulvaney had a derogatory term for all of the fitness competitions, including our beloved CrossFit games. And he just dismissed it all as thruster races. And it made me laugh every time he'd say it. It was good. Thruster races.
Was it tough? Did the thought of turning this into a business, right? Because when you think about CrossFit, there's lots of stuff in terms of like, and I've heard you use the expression like the Harvard MBAs come in and say, Greg, you're leaving all this money on the table. You could own the piece of Rogue and require all the affiliates to buy this equipment and do all that. Was that ever hard to reject and turn away and to stay the path that you were continuing on?
Yeah, and it was held up routinely, smugly shared amongst other business types, as de facto evidence of me not knowing what the fuck I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I wrestled control of the company from my ex, you could see in our growth from there, we had a concave down growth pattern. We were growing, but it was concave down. When I disavowed myself of listening to all these MBAs, because it was MBAs that tried to take the company, and what they convinced her of is that I didn't know what I was doing because of all the money I was leaving on the table.
Mm-hmm.
And they had examples of supplements and equipment and apparel. It was widely recognized that me allowing affiliates to print their own shirts was throwing money away.
Mm.
No brand would ever do anything like that. But when I saw them as independent tribes, and I knew that what it meant to belong to a gym and to work out with these people, and the shirt is a nice way to share that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the point of just finally like, okay, I'm going to do exactly what I want to do, and for the reasons I want to do it, our growth became, we had an inflection and it transferred in by 2012, we're concave down. I mean, we went from concave down to concave up. We've hit an inflection and we have an accelerated growth. Now, appearing at Harvard Business School year after year to talk about that, what happened was that I learned what business was from the luck of our success and resisting these bright and shiny objects. And I now recognize that when I'm walking through Costco and I see a Tommy Bahama or pick whatever the fuck it is that's there, and I'm like, this is it's not what it's. I don't think it's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
My standard for other lines of opportunity was, you better bring me a fish pill that's as different from other fish pills as CrossFit training is from other training programs. And there is no such fish pill, so we stayed out of that. Same thing with rings. There's no ring that's better than the other rings by margins that compare to how CrossFit's better than other training.
Right.
And so with each pair of rings you sell and each fish pill someone swallows with your name on it that can't differentiate to the extent that training is, there's a dilution of the brand by exactly equal to your profit, to your revenue from that.
Mm.
There's your diminished value.
Yeah.
You're taking it to the bank. Now it's the goal of an MBA to do that much of that as you fucking can.
Right. They don't know another
They've never
path.
seen it. They've never seen a day where they didn't, or an opportunity they didn't want to make some money off of.
Right.
And so the current ownership is struggling with that.
Yep.
And I know the problem. The affiliates aren't going to help them.
Yeah. When you went and they asked you to speak at Harvard Business School after being told, and this guy doesn't know what he's doing and he's not the business type, and he's making mistakes left and right. When you first walked on campus, was there a nice big smile on your face saying, yeah, fuck you guys, you didn't know what you were talking about now that I'm here? Or did you not see it that way? Did you just see that you had a different path, that excellence could be pursued and it could still be successful in a monetary value as well too, without having to pursue the typical MBA path?
I went ready to show them, and on my first visit, I could diagram this, make a map. You are here, right? The X.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I put dollar signs up on the left.
Yeah.
And excellence up to the right. And I had this picture where I say the problem with money, with pursuing the money, is that it's not always clear what's going to be profitable and what won't be, what is going to be attractive to people and what won't, whether it's a taco or a training or a barbell. But the excellence is visible. And so I would say that in the pursuit of money, you go all over the place. The money's over here and you miss. You get all these misses. And then there's a lot of people that end up and they draw pictures. But one of the things I could draw would be a smiley face and someone holding on to bars, right?
Yeah.
Incarceration is one of the things that gets you that can happen in the pursuit of money,
right,
as a primary goal. But what I saw was that the excellence was obvious to everyone. And whether it's a hair salon, an orthodontic practice, or a pair of rings, you can just kind of check it out and see when something is done extraordinarily well. And I took from gymnastics this notion of virtuosity to do the common uncommonly well. And that kind of guiding towards excellence, you can every day set standards, efforts, goals, achievements towards improving some product or service and feel yourself moving towards it. And what markets do, efficient markets, is they bring revenue, they bring capital to excellence. And I had the blessed experience of having had several billionaire clients. And I could see in them that what they were about was not the pursuit of money. Then I easily analogize to like airlines. The goal is not to burn jet fuel. You don't measure your success by aviation gas, and you might not through revenue either. But the idea is that the goal should be to get people safely and comfortably from point A to point B. And the ways you can improve in that are unlimited. And you see it on the better airlines. You fly KLM or Singapore or Cathay Pacific or one of the really nice airlines, and you understand what they're doing and how it's different than what's going on at United,
right? Southwest,
right. Yeah.
United wouldn't let me use "fuck United" on a password for the in-flight internet. Because I fly United, just sit there hating them the whole time. Every time I get on United, I hate them. And it wouldn't let me use it. But when I landed and I got ground, "fuck United" pops up and it populates Google, and I get a return on it. Put in "fuck United" on Google and look what's coming up. Everyone from Kimmel to. In fact, Kimmel made I think it was Kimmel made a ad spoofing United, where the stewardess is like just basically "fuck you,"
And I think you're absolutely right.
We got off track here, but the excellence, it's the pursuit of excellence. You see it at the Four Seasons. I'd love to talk to the people at the Four Seasons. Oh yeah, he hates them too. Everyone does. I was in a foreign country with Sevi, talking to the guy at the counter, telling him it's like just abundantly clear to me that none of you guys give a fuck. And you know what this guy does? He goes, "You're right. That's exactly right. But let me explain something to you. Nobody works for United. I'm a staffer. I get a uniform to wear. I work for this other outfit, you know." And he goes, "Everyone's that way here. It's like they don't own the planes. It's just a cobbled together airline." Like, oh, okay, thank you. Now I feel better.
Now we know why you guys suck so bad. Okay. But I think you're right, Greg, because now as the current owners of CrossFit, whoever they might be, are in, as you say, the fiduciary obligation, legally bound to pursue profit. And we've seen them, for lack of better words, in terms of where CrossFit was to what's happening now, kind of just circling the toilet bowl. And it seems like they can't find their way to stop that and start to rise out. And I believe because they're not necessarily looking for excellence in what they're doing, but they're looking to find that next dollar.
You can be a scientist and not know what science is. Generally not a very good one. but you know, you can, it's possible. I've seen my father asking auditoriums full of scientists to walk him towards a definition. And it's wildly entertaining. I've wanted to replicate that feat, but I don't. It's mean. It's a mean thing to do, to have a room full of physicians, scientists, or engineers, and find that none of them can articulate what science is. They can't give me enough that I differentiate astronomy from astrology. They can't point out the demarcation. There's almost no professor at a university that can do that. You'll see falsifications of demarcation, and it's not. It's not. It's a necessary condition, but not sufficient. I go here because it's my expectation of MBAs that they really don't know what business is. Founders do. MBAs do not.
Yeah, and that's why
they don't create shit, and they don't have any understanding of value.
But they've read a lot of books about it.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I need an MBA to help me with my business, about like I'd need an exercise physiologist to help me with workouts, or a nutritionist to help me with what to eat, or anyone from Harvard and anything to do with parenting or education or teaching or values or history. Civics.
Greg, how did you determine what was gonna? This is another topic. What was gonna be presented in the level ones? How did you dial it back from? Okay, these are all important points, and I'm not gonna slam people for 3 days with named workouts.
I started where I wanted to have you leaving knowing everything I knew. There's a lot to do. I got a lot. Been doing this a long time. There's a lot. So get ready, go. You know, and I had a biology teacher that in 90 minutes he'd take 13 pages of notes, and he'd walk towards the chalk, come in the door, and walk towards the chalk in the amphitheater, talking. You know, and not like, "Hey everyone, good morning." But, you know, the key to phosphorylation is, and you're like, "Oh, holy cow!" I mean, he hasn't even started. He's delivering, headed to the board. And by the time he gets the chalk in your hand, if your pencil's not working, you're fucked. And any of that could be on the test, or all of it, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought he was a great teacher, but there's others that can give you a taste of success that is inspiring and builds confidence for further exploration. And at that point, what I did is, we talked about this recently on the show, and it was in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I realized that 3 days trying to teach all of the movements, we need to bring this down to 9 movements, and then find out what underlying concepts would apply to further exploration in other movements, at least a vocabulary for movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
And suppose we dial way back on what's taught, but ratchet up the expectation to what percentage of it is kept in his permanent memory.
Mm.
And I think we achieved that spectacularly. Or it was just the case that the first offering was way too much. But it's seen enough refinement that it was interesting too to step back in every once in a while and see things. There was a point where the idea of staying back on your heels and using the posterior chain developed into make a movement like you're pushing the car door closed with your butt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perfectly, exactly 100% wrong. And there are cues that you give that inspire behaviors, but it might be that the physics of it don't exist or aren't right. And that was one, and then I caught it in some drawings where I saw the first thing that happened was the hip break before there was any break at the leg.
Mm-hmm.
And they go, oh, shit, what we're doing there is we're not keeping the sum of vector forces to zero. And I don't like it immediately. This is given to us by the physics, not a physiologist. If I gave a schematic of the human body to a life form that was like, say, brilliant octopi people, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would be able to calculate the squat and the deadlift and the clean. Our physiognomy determine those movements, and you don't have a lot of choice. And you start vectorizing these things, and you realize it instantly. And so that had to be bled out. I don't know, why am I even going here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because we were talking about the refinement of the movements and how if you distilled it down to the most important ones, that they would be able to explore how the relationship and what was taught in there affect all the other movements that they'll be doing in terms of their functionality and their efficacy. Yeah,
and this is exactly where my head's at on this attempt. I mean, I've stood in front of people and talked quite a bit now about broken science.
Yeah,
and it's the refinements to my thinking and to the presentation and the people I'm having around come down to this same kind of thing where I want to make sure that everyone leaves with something that they're a little bit impressed by.
Mm-hmm.
Gives them this urge to talk to others about what they just saw and experienced, and a willingness to invest in yourself enough to continue along this line of thinking and hold this lens up to the world as it passes by, so that you can avoid being someone's idiot. It's interesting when you talk about raising awareness or making, keeping people from being a victim of shitty science, or there's a very natural and common inclination to ratchet up your sensitivity to getting ripped off in the marketplace. It's the commercial kind of thing. And I got to tell you guys, the greatest bill of goods comes from the academy, from our universities, mainstream media, and government, all in agreement.
Mm-hmm.
All in agreement. And that's always a problem. It's always a problem. And you don't realize that when someone tells you to wear a mask or to get a vaccine, or that your school has to be closed or your bar can't be open, you're being sold something. And it might not be directly financial, although the pharma companies just made more money than anyone's ever made, I think.
Funded by us, the taxpayers.
But what you're doing is you're giving away your rights. You're giving away control. You're being someone's idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we can, and I'll use the term, I love it. I think we can inoculate people from that.
Yeah.
And everyone out there, in the name of rationality, needs to be extremely suspicious of anything that's passing off as university science.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about distrusting science. I'm talking about the people that are pretending to be scientists.
Right. And that's why I think the going back to the p-value explanation is so important, because once you understand that there is no greater predictor of the truth than predictive value. There is nothing more than understanding what is the predictive value of this and allow me to use that as a governing in my decision making. And then from understanding that piece, I can now apply that to everything. Any information I'm seeing coming from these entities, or like as you use in the speech, like, what is the predictive value that my girlfriend's going to cheat on me? And you could distill it down to these also things. Hey, there's a car coming pretty fast down this street. If I run across, am I going to get hit by it, or should I let it back? What's the predictive value of that, right? And so taking that nugget of the p-value to being able to use it in discernment in all the decisions that I'm making is the same thing as taking it down to the 9 foundational movements, the hinge, the squat, the overhead press, and then saying, okay, these express certain, efficacies in movement. Now let me learn how they apply to other movements that are going to give me the same result.
The p-value tells me the probability of my data in reference to a test statistic of my choosing, on the assumption that the null hypothesis is false, and I'm sorry, that the null is true,
mm-hmm.
and that is that there's no effect. And if the data is highly improbable, with that being the case, the temptation is to make assumptions about the null or the alternative hypothesis, and there's more wrong with that than you can address in a single setting. But the reality is that there is no probability of the data that allows me to make any assumptions about the probability of the null or the alternative. Absolutely none. You cannot do that. And what's fascinating is that when statisticians are challenged on this, they readily agree. Of course you cannot. Okay. And then when you ask, and it's been done, as a study, it's been researched, people have done the poll, asked professors of statistics and asked students and asked scientists what p-values are, and when they're given a list of things that they could be, in the high 90s, everyone picks one of these things and says, yeah, this is what a p-value does. And none of them are true. They're all false. And Gerd Gigerenzer has been challenging people with this for 30 years. What's interesting is to catalog the common misconceptions. And each and every one of them, each misconception suggests falsely that something about the probability of the hypothesis is being determined. And they even call it the thing you really want to know. Now, what's interesting is the inferential statistics, the frequentists that control the academic stats, basically, in the bulk of the sciences, certainly in medicine, psychology, sociology, that inferential statistics denies the probability of a hypothesis even having meaning. They say a hypothesis propositions are true or false. Now, modern science, the science that's practiced at SpaceX, for them, a hypothesis absolutely has probability, and it's greater than 0 and it's less than 1 for any event. And so, what's happened is that academic science has removed the validation, which is the predictability, as a determinant of validation of a model. And in fact, it's entirely independent of method. Whether your models, where they come from inspiration or perspiration, their validation comes from their predictive strength.
Right. And without
Nothing
that,
else.
yeah,
Nothing
without that,
else.
it's nothing. Yeah.
Nothing else. So until your model has predicted, and I've tested forward and backwards, retrodiction and prediction, until I find it's doing something there of significance, we're not looking at science yet.
Right.
And I have zero rational basis for trusting you.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that our trust in science is akin, analogous, identical maybe to all trust. It all comes from predictability.
Yeah.
And so I start researching this. What can I find on trust? And what you find is the researchers will tell you that predictability is the cornerstone of trust.
Right.
Of course it is. I've got a name for things that you believe in where you have where the prediction part isn't there. I think it's faith.
That makes sense. Because if you don't have the predictive value, all you have at that point is the faith that it's going to work out. When for you, because you had already been on this philosophical direction, long before Broken Science. I saw it in the DDCs at CrossFit and everything else. Oh, we have a caller. Let's see if this will work. Stand by. Caller, welcome to the show. Hello.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Caleb.
Hey.
How are you?
Hey, we're great. What's your name?
Good. It's Jethro.
Jethro, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. Coach, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
As a new affiliate looking for coaches, I would like your opinion on what type of coach you would prefer or be a better model in your affiliate. We'll take, say, 5 coaches from 1 to 10, 1 being 0 experience to 10 being a level 4 coach. Would you rather have your staff be outgoing and smiling and engaging with the members at a level 8 with their knowledge and experience of the methodology about a 4, or vice versa? Knowledge and experience of the methodology at about an 8 level and not as engaged, or just really sticking to no repping and hammering the movements as a 4.
The style in my gym was you didn't have much chance socially and therefore probably economically without a sense of humor. And so we put a big value in personality. And I don't know where that starts from. I don't know, but Annie Sakamoto told someone once she had the 1 pood kettlebells powder coated pink, and we were just tired of seeing big strong guys swinging fucking 1 pood kettlebells, right? And then it turned into, unless you have a pussy, put that the fuck down. coming out of her mouth, right? Like, wow. I heard Brendan Gilliam tell his people once, he goes, "Okay, you fucking retards, everyone grab a medicine ball." And like, man, you got 2 billionaires amongst your fucking retards there.
Oh,
you
shit.
realize that. And what are they doing? They're panicking. They're getting their medicine ball and running because he just called them all fucking retards. And I was like, I couldn't interfere with that chemistry. It's not my style. And B probably doesn't mind me sharing her story, but he was struggling with some issues, and so we had to have a sit down with some of his people and say, "Hey, Brendan's working through some things," and they made it clear, you do everything you can to help that boy. No Brendan is no CrossFit for us. They're like, my God, they love him, and he was a great trainer, one of the best I've ever seen. And there was something about there was an authenticity, an easygoingness, and sometimes the laughter was just like everyone would stop. Like, why are they having so much fun? And if you can add that to to what is otherwise a horrific experience, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fun when it's done. And so anyone that can infuse some kind of humor into the process, even if it is occasionally at someone's expense, Jason Kalipa, you do it. It happens, you know?
Yeah, Jethro, if I could just echo Greg's words there for a minute, that's exactly the philosophy that I use for my gym. I say I can't teach you personality, but I could teach you to show someone how to properly squat. Those are the hard skills that is actually your job and duty as the head coach and as the owner of the affiliate to make sure that everybody is doing best to their ability. But the soft skills, the personality, the humor, the connection that they make with your members, that's something that you cannot teach and you should not teach. Because as Greg was saying, each individual that brings their personality but has made the connections, has made the deposits into each and every one of their clients, gets away with a lot of stuff like calling billionaires a retard to go grab a med ball, right? But that's
okay, you fucking retards. That's what it was. Okay, you fucking retards.
And you only get away with something like that if you have the personality, the connection with the people that you are in front of each day. So I always say find somebody who fits the culture and has a great personality in front of your clients, and then work backwards to make sure that they're up to speed on all the hard skills and they're teaching the way that you want to see it performed in your affiliate.
Yeah, I would
right. I have a
training
partner.
Answer.
Thank you.
He comes to the classes a lot, and he's very outgoing and talks to everyone. And he knows how to do CrossFit. And everyone asks him, "How long have you been coaching?" And he's never coached a class in his life. And that's one of those things where, like, these are the people I'm trying to foster and get into the culture for my gym to continue to coach. So, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jethro.
I'm going to add something, Jethro. When the seminar travel had us leaving town with great regularity, we gave keys to the gym to our constant membership. So guys like Greg Amundsen and Tara Guglielmo were opening the doors for us in the morning. At first, we left programming for them. Then they were doing their own, but it's pretty easy to take someone who's been coming 5 days a week for 3 years, who has a personality. Tara's like, fuck yeah, I can do it. And guess what? Fuck yeah, she could do it. She could do it. She had learned. And so we generated a lot of extraordinary training talent. I'm wildly impressed at the training talent that sits in the 10-year affiliates. I mean, look out of that sea of faces that came to Whistler, and there's an enormous amount of talent out there. And much of it, I would have very little to add or do, or they've perfected the art. We were talking about Mr. Westerling.
Yeah,
he's clearly one of those people.
Yeah.
I definitely want fuck yeah, I could do it, people. So
yeah,
right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the call, Jethro.
Thanks, Jethro. Talk to you later, brother.
Thanks, Coach. Bye, guys. Bye.
Later.
Yeah, and so Greg, one of the things that I was going to ask is, like, I really aligned with the DDC because as I was training in my affiliate and everything else, I needed the right enemies. And when you were going after the NSCA case and you were correcting the public record, and then you started to set your sights on, holy shit, we're untangling this big mess of corruption here, specifically starting in the exercise science realm and then moving forward. That was something that immediately fired me up and I aligned myself with quite heavily, so much so that I started to, sneak into your DDCs a little bit after getting an email from Karin. And I actually said, hey, I'm an affiliate owner. If you guys need help taking out the trash or setting up the chairs, I don't need a spot to sit. I'll stand in the corner or I'll kind of kneel down out of the way. But is there any chance I could go to one of these DDCs? And she said, yeah, sure. Here's the email. Come on out. We'd love to have you. Well, what ended up happening was I stayed on that email list. So every time a new one would come, I would get it and I'd say, oh shit, okay, there's one coming up this weekend. And, I would park in the parking lot there and I'd head over and I would see Danielle at the time with the little lanyards, giving everybody name tags, knowing that I didn't have a name tag. And I would kind of get up there and try to smooth my way past her a little bit and slide into the DDCs. And was that philosophical direction always there for you, or did it really become an aha moment once you realized with that champ paper and what they were doing with the falsified injury rates of CrossFit and how they were circling that around so they could keep their stranglehold over training? Did it happen then, or were you already on that path prior to that?
I had learned from my upbringing the simple process of observations being turned into measurements, measurements forecast on a predicted measurement being the path for validation. And I mentioned earlier that I had understood. I felt convicted. I had a conviction that there was increased work capacity across broad time and modal domains arises from constantly very high intensity functional movement. And ask the question again.
The philosophical direction of the company to start attacking and correct the public record.
Yeah, look, I thought that I think I thought I was pretty clever. That this is neat and it's weird, no one's doing it, and you can it holds up scientifically, and let's do it. But I never presumed that they got it wrong because there's no one that gives a fuck. The corruption of academic exercise science is profound.
Mm-hmm.
And the ease and the willingness in casual conversation that you could see a guy like William Kramer suborning fabrication, falsification of data off his personal email, sock puppeting reviewers in the peer review process.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he got caught red-handed with that. The court-appointed expert found that this one reviewer uses inappropriately the same phrase that Kramer uses all the time in his writing, including a misspelling, oddly enough. You know? I mean, it was just so bad. It was fingerprint bad, right? And he was talking about this shit, including products that he was involved in network marketing. And I wasn't ready for that. It reminds me of my father's shock when Begley came out and talked about the Begley-Ellis studies that showed that only about 11% of was it 6%, whatever, of preclinical science in oncology and hematology could be replicated. When he was explaining what that meant, my father was aghast in that it wasn't corruption. He said that the problem is that the methods weren't at all scientific. That's the problem. That oncology and hematology is not being practiced as a science. They're not taking observations, which are registrations of the real world on our senses or sensing equipment. They're not tying that to a standard scale with a well-characterized error and calling it a measurement. And they're not projecting that on forecasting that on a future measurement as a predictive model. That's not what they're doing. And validation doesn't come through the predictive strength of those models. And he was horrified that it was entirely subjective.
Yeah. It's interesting because I picture you kind of like opening these doors, right, and finding all the corruption that's happening. And you said something really profound at your talk in Hillsdale, and you said there's two major players in the fitness industry, and it's CrossFit and the American Beverage Association. And
that is it.
I love that line because I imagine you going through your studies and looking into it and opening the door and seeing all this corruption and then looking around and going, why the fuck am I the only one standing in this room calling this out? Where is everybody else?
We went to me, Russ Green, and Russ Berger went to NSCA convention. Or was it ACSM? They held it in San Diego. And I was like, you're gonna come to my backyard, I'm showing up. We went there, and it was kind of amazing who was there. Mrs. Fields was there. The cookie people were there with a huge presence, and they had buses with like DaVita wrap the dialysis. They were wrapped with the branded dialysis buses,
Shit.
And
Holy
we registered, paid, gave them our hard-earned money, and I got this spiral bound catalog that accompanies the thing, the program for the event. And I pop it open, and what do I see? I see Exercise is Medicine with Coca-Cola as the founding partner, offering seminars and a certification in fitness. I mean, I didn't even know where I was going, but thank God I went, because I find out that Coca-Cola is a big player in the fitness space and has ACSM backing.
Wow.
Yeah, along with Technogym was another one. But so what do I do? And you check this out. Berger goes, "Oh my God, it's William Kramer, Mr. Kramer. Can we take a picture?" And he reported that we threatened him, and he ran for his life. Yeah, we asked for a fucking picture, man.
He falsified that story too.
We had a guy come up to us and, hey, he looks around like we were buying crack, right? He goes, "I know who you are. I like you guys." Just tippy toes off.
Scurries out of there real quick before he gets
At the NSCA headquarters, they were doing named workouts in their gym.
Wow.
The girl, Fran, Diane.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, I'm for one am happy you don't seem someone that's too into retirement, and I'm very pleased to see your efforts in the broken science and that mission to continue. And I'm always thankful when I get to play a small role in that, or get to be close to that in any regard. Because
come in March to Scottsdale. I'd like you to see this, because I think it's a special moment, and I've got backing in Anton Garrett from Cambridge Physics and Gerd Gigerenzer from Max Planck Institute. I couldn't imagine better support, and what I have in the two of them is the maximum entropy work and applications that we're seeing in AI and in computing now is changing science in so many fields, from genomics to it's wide open. Having an enormous, oversized impact, and it's exemplary of modern science done correctly, and it stands in stark opposition to the problems in null hypothesis significance testing and p-values that sits in large measure responsible for the overcertainty that's created the replication crisis. And these two guys, one is a firsthand participant in what's right, and the other in what's wrong, coming after me is an amazing thing. And I'd like to have both of you there.
Oh, I will 100% be there. Yes.
That'd be incredible.
Thank you.
And I'm going to test my delivery on some teenagers and younger. And see what we can do.
Well, Greg, thank you very much for coming on and allowing me to prod you with questions and everything else. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I always appreciate your knowledge and your time with us here on the show.
You're very kind, too kind, and I'll see you both soon.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
See you later.
Thank you.
Right. Bye. Boom, boom, boom. Made it. That was fun.
That's cool.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so glad when you were like, hey, let's throw it back to like how we refined what was in the L1, because that was one of my questions. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. And I completely I had gone past it. And so I'm glad you brought that back there, because I thought that was like one of the main things is like, how'd you pick? Because I mean, you are a fan of the journal and have studied it as well. And like, you see how vast, there's so much information in there, and there's so much great information in there. So it's like, how do you distill that down to teach it in a weekend? Right. And that's really cool.
I was talking to my wife about it after the fact. I have like a very nonchalant attitude towards like a lot of things. So when it came to the L1, I was like, yeah, like my wife would ask me what's going to happen. I was like, it's just a course, 2 days, like important information, all that stuff. And she didn't. And then after the fact, she's like, if you wouldn't, it's like, I should have studied the whole book. I did. She did like, there's so much information. I should have read it. I'm
Yeah.
like, there is so much, but I think in the 2 days that you get, they prepare you well for the test for one, but there's also just so much. I think a majority of the nuggets that most people would find important are within those 2 days, but I think the real education comes from reading the book if you really want to dive deeper into it. It's really interesting.
100%. Like you were even saying it, like when you were like, I went for a second time 6-7 years ago and got just as much out of it this time as I did last time, picked up extra nuggets because you've been so like engrossed in it over those years since. It's like you're able to absorb more, right? It's like trying to teach somebody a snatch. Like the first piece is just going to be from the hip, getting it up over your head. And if you try to add any detail onto that, like, you know, it's just going to get immediately lost. But once they've had some familiarity with the movement, then you could start to get into those finer details to where they're really like, oh shit, and things are starting to click a lot. And that's how I kind of feel about the L1, like especially as you get more and more into it, or you go back and take it a second time, like I did with my L2, like even better the second or third time around.
Definitely. I really appreciate it. I thought that was I'm glad I did it again. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah. And I really hope that there's somehow with this broken science thing that Greg is doing to kind of like mix that education in, because I feel like the culture that is CrossFit, like us that take personal responsibility, understand that our health is our responsibility. We're not outsourcing that to doctors and pharmaceutical companies. I hope that there's some sort of synergy between that and how to disseminate that information to like more and more people, right? Like how do you get that message out there? And how could you become an alliance, a partnered, an affiliate of Broken Science? Yeah, I don't know.
I always feel like I need to
hope it works out.
Do more research on the Broken Science stuff, because I know he does that podcast and then all those other things. I need to immerse myself a little more into that information, because there's things that he's discussing that I'm so retarded in. Like,
dude, like I feel like I don't even want to say I'm getting it, but I feel like I'm like starting to position myself to be able to get it.
You
and
can ask
you gotta remember
about
like,
it at least.
Yes. And like, but to last year when I went out in February, when Greg did the first talk in Scottsdale, I was part of the crew that helped kind of take all his notes and turn it into the slides and some different stuff that he was using to give out that information. So we got quite intimate with it as you're like rewriting it and trying to understand and learn it. And then I got to spend a lot of time with the other speakers like Matt Briggs and people like that were coming through. And yeah, it was like constantly asking questions, having to hear the same thing like 4 or 5 times in 4 or 5 different ways, right? Just like learning the snatch, as we were saying before. It's like once you grasp the overall concept, it's like, okay, now let me start to figure out how I could find some more detail to it or apply it to more things. And yeah, it was it's cool, but it's gonna, like he said, it's gonna take some refinement so that way it's able to digest to a larger audience that is ready for it.
Paulina, you're gonna have to direct me a little more specifically on what GERD Gigarenzer information I should be looking at, because I looked it up and it's a lot, but
it's already too tense.
I just want to know how he met all these people too. When I was talking to Joe Westerlin at the L1, he was just telling me about all of these people that he's kind of like meshed together into one. He's like, hey, we're gonna have a panel of people, and these panel of people are just it's like potential Nobel Prize winning people in one room for days at a time. Like they're all coming together and they all want to express the information that they've gathered over the years. And it's incredible that he knows these many people and is able to have these events like this.
Yeah, it's nuts to bring everybody in the same room. And I love it too, because like for me, I have to have a really grand vision that gets me up and gets me out of bed. And like I love, training all the people that are at CFL. Like it definitely like fills my cup, if you know what I mean. But something that I need and what I want to go after is the health insurance companies that come between patient and doctor care. I want to harpoon pharmaceutical companies and their stranglehold over corporate media, government, and the narrative in this country. I want to decouple that from the care that they're giving to their patients into actual care, not just treating symptoms, but treating root causes and doing it at the start. I also think that PE in schools for kids is completely dead. And we're seeing result of that. I mean, Caleb, you know best, like people trying to get into the military, fuck, it's like how many people get dropped out because they've just never been physical or anything like that. Right. Like it's never happened. And so, and I saw somebody into the comments, and I apologize. You guys did have some great questions in the comments, but I just had to absolutely stay like locked into Greg, and it's hard. Like if I start drifting off to these comments, like number one, somebody says some shit that makes me feel insecure as fuck. Like I was like right away, Heidi just like slapped me in the face when I'm over here like telling Greg how much like what he's done that's like changed my life and the trajectory he put me on. And she's like, we get it, move on. I'm like, oh fuck, you know, like 2 minutes into the show, I'm super insecure. But yeah, those are the type of things that I need. Like I need to be going after something really fucking large, and I really want to make a massive impact. And like it was funny, like a while back, Grace was like, we were looking, like sometimes we'll go by and just like look at random houses and play the game of like, would you live here? Right. And you were sucking him off just a little too hard. That's my applause for me. Yeah, I know. There's the button. There's the button. Anyhow, fuck, I lost my train. Oh, we're looking at the houses, and I was like, yeah, I want a house like that or whatever. And I'd always point out like the biggest ones. And she's like, you just want a big ass house like that so you could like show off. And I was like, yes, of course. But at the same time, I want a big ass house like that so I can invite all my family. There's not a dispute over who's going where on a holiday. You know, if you have resources to do that, those type of issues are no longer issues. They're just small inconveniences. And so when I think about either a company I want to be a part of or a company I want to build, I want it to be massive, and I want it to have massive influence, and I want it to have a lot of money, just not just because I want to buy fucking stuff though. Like I don't, like, clearly you see the car I drive. It's not about the stuff for me. Right. But it's about the resources to go after the bigger mission. And so that's essentially the direction that I want to go. And like the affiliate is part of that, because that's the boots on the ground changing people's lives. This show is a massive part of that. And the reason why I've dedicated so much of my time to this. And it's funny, like when people talk about like, oh, being paid or whatever, it's like, that's such a fucking short-sighted ideal. And like, I get that. And everybody has different positions, but part of the reason why I got the gym to where it was is so that it could essentially just fund me to be able to do other stuff. And now I don't have to worry as much about money because I have something that's generating a little bit of cash that frees me up to pursue these things. And then when this thing starts to generate millions of fucking dollars, I'll start to parlay that into something else that'll help carry that mission on. And for me, the mission is understanding that free speech is the most important thing we have as a country. Understanding that the free market is the most important thing that we have in terms of changing anybody's situation and the opportunity that's in front of them. And we need to keep liberty, not this democracy shit that everybody keeps harping down. You got to be careful with that. It's about liberty. And if you don't understand the difference between democracy and liberty, spend some time understanding the difference between that. And so those three things really like fire me up. And I hope to build a media company in whatever form that looks like to be able to continue that mission and fight the fight. So, and I know some of you guys are like, why the fuck are you like doing that or saying about that? I'm doing it for myself, really. So if you're not into it, fuck off. But if you are,
I love it.
Welcome aboard. Oh shit, that scared the fuck out of me. I thought someone was on the show. I was like, wait, how do you get in here?
I love it.
Liberty, the state of being free within a society from oppressive restrictions imposed by authority on one's way of life, behavior, and political views. Thank you.
Pretty good definition. I like it.
Yeah, that's a fantastic definition. Hold on. Yo, you're live on the air.
I hear you.
You got me?
Yeah.
How's it going?
Dude, it was a 10, dude.
You're not just saying that so I don't get afraid?
Dude, I didn't feel uncomfortably once. You know, the whole time I'm listening, I'm just waiting for like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed for someone.
Yes.
I was not uncomfortable. I stopped at rest areas to drop my morning deuce, and I was like bummed that I had to miss sections of it, but I still wanted to listen live. Dude, it was gold. Ignore all the comments of sucking them off or any of that, dude.
Okay.
Because it was nonstop stories and information. It was like story, information, story, information, story, information. It was a killer cadence. You're absolutely right, Caleb. When Caleb brought it back to that, that was perfect too.
So
dude,
good.
it was tits, dude.
Oh,
It was so, and I could have never done all that with Greg. It was
awesome.
dope, dude. I'm stoked. I'm
Okay.
stoked.
Good. Thank you.
I'm
Yeah.
stoked. I'm ready for you to do every Wednesday, to be honest. You articulate. Here's the thing: you're able to articulate it the way he articulates it. So he's like, "Wow, this dude gets it." So then he opens up even more for you.
Oh, good. Okay, fantastic.
You use his vernacular and you construct the arguments. And like when you talk about the champs paper and you mention NSCA, those are all dear to his heart. And so you're touching on those things that open him up. Dude, it was great, dude.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. That's funny
Yeah.
that you mentioned the thing about like getting embarrassed, like you're listening to it, you start to get uncomfortable, embarrassed, you get all warm. Like I was thinking about that and I was like, fuck, I hope that doesn't happen to him.
No. I was not once because I'm like super aware of that, right?
Yeah,
it's like
for sure.
It's like when you're watching the Wadapalooza coverage or something, and you like get embarrassed for someone.
Yeah.
I never was once like embarrassed for you. I was never
Okay.
like, oh shit. I was like always like I was just lost in the conversation.
Okay, good. Oh man.
Completely ignore any comments. I'm telling you, like I know better than anybody.
Thank you.
I'm the start and stop, and I'm telling you, you and Caleb crushed.
Awesome. Thanks. I'm
Crushed.
glad we did it. We're glad we made you proud. It was funny because
Historical information, modern information, up to date, where things were in the past, where things are going in the future. It was good. It was good, dude. Hour 90 minutes of it's the best podcast that Greg's done. I'm telling you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I was telling you when you had first mentioned it, I got like obviously crazy, just wanted to run and hide from it. And then I was like, wait a minute, what if I just use this time selfishly to just find out everything I wanted to know? And on top of that, it helps me as I continue like our pursuit here on the podcast and everything else that I'm doing, right? Like just to have that affirmation from someone like Greg that as long as we chase excellence, as long as, and this is something you and I talk about all the time, as long as we're chasing excellence, as long as we're constantly giving to our audience, as long as we're constantly trying to innovate and keep ourselves in unique in the space and what we offer, then success is inevitable, right? So yeah, it was cool. All right, awesome. I'm glad you dug it. That makes me happy.
I was at that level one when Nicole did her first nutrition lecture.
Oh, you were?
And when I took my first L1 and they were teaching the air squat, Nicole came over and she's like, wow, she was like complimenting my air squat. She called Greg over. She goes, look at his squat. And Greg just kind of looked at me and walked away. He's like, well, I guess the boss didn't like me. But I didn't even really know Greg.
Oh man. Yeah, it was awesome. I love all those old stories. I hope that one day they get compiled into a book because it would really be a tragedy if that was lost in time.
Hey,
how's it
are
drive?
they releasing the bot? It's long. I left at 3:40.
Oh,
Haley just cracked open a Tupperware container full of chopped steak.
Nice.
Breakfast is served. Hey, when does the behind the scenes episode 5 come out? Is that right now?
Yeah, I do believe it is. It's
There's
a drop
premiere set for it.
There was a premiere. Now it's live for members. So we have episode 5. Wow, there's already 40. Oh no, it just dropped.
It's so good. I watched it this morning on my drive. Holy shit, it's good.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah, now this is
it's
like
the best one.
Yeah, now this is like it's really starting to take off. I think people are just, I mean, like we've said, it just keeps getting better and better and better and better. So it's gonna be awesome. It dropped at 8 o'clock.
Hey, could you at the end of every episode how they put the rankings on there?
Yeah.
I think they should put that at the beginning of every episode too. Maybe you could tell Rios and Brandstetter to do that. You know what I mean? So when it starts,
that
cool
makes
that it's at the end.
Yeah.
But when you come back, you want to see it too. So maybe moving forward, episode 6, they put the rankings at the beginning and the end. So like when you start, you know who's in first place. Oh shit, I dropped a piece of steak between the car seat.
That's gonna smell great in a while. Yeah, no, you're right, because
I got it.
Especially as we go deeper and deeper and deeper into the competition, it would be nice to know like, hey, here's where everybody left off at, and then at the end see how that shook out at the end of the episode. That's a great Great suggestion.
You want to start the episode knowing,
Yeah,
hey,
for
there was
sure.
a good interview. There was a good interview in there with Justin Medeiros. I forgot even talking to Justin.
Yeah, that was an awesome interview. Well, we won't get too much into the detail. You gotta be a CEO member to really check it out. But yeah, that's a great interview.
Yeah, it's pretty sure.
All the way. There's also one that was kind of funny with an old friend of the show. One of a three duo, if you will. We'll let the members check that out. Just the
a boy or girl?
Boy, guy, old past champion.
Oh yeah. Hey, you know what else I was thinking today? The Greg shows have surpassed the Matt and Josh and Sevan podcast. That made it to 20 episodes. Greg's made it to 27.
Yeah, we're at 27. Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Crazy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was fun.
Like clockwork, dude. You know, I left at 3:40 or whatever.
Yep.
So I get up every morning at 6 to do the podcast. I get up and I just have this total routine. And usually by 6:05, I'm like prairie dogging. And fucking like clockwork, 6. I'm like, oh shit, I gotta take a shit like a fucking maniac. And I look at the clock and it was 6:13. I'm like, oh my God, I'm 7 minutes past my morning dues.
And it's about to be an emergency. We need to find a rest stop quick.
It felt so good not having to do the show this morning. Oh my God, I listened to Stern this morning. What a fucktard psychopath.
Yeah. Hey, dude, that fucking line.
I haven't listened to him in years. He is fucking batshit crazy, dude.
Dude, that line.
He's like, you want to live in a. He's like, you want to live in it? Go ahead.
No, I just gonna say the line that you either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain is fucking. It's true as shit, right?
Oh man. He's like, you want to live in a dictatorship? I don't need anyone telling me what to do. And dude, does he not remember 2 years ago? He was like, fuck, let the people who won't wear masks and get the injection die.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what the fuck is wrong with
Wait,
this
what
guy?
do you mean the live in a dictatorship? Like he's referring to Trump?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. They took, you know those scumbags, the Young Turks?
Yes.
They took one line from an interview the Young Turks did, which is just they're the worst.
Yeah.
And they interviewed some guy saying, hey man, we need someone like Trump who will slap everyone around and run the shit like a dictatorship. And Howard ran with it, and they just kept calling Trump a dictator. It's like, dude, do you not know that we just lived through 2 years of insane censorship?
Yeah.
3 years, we're still living it.
And here's the other thing, dude. You have to have a system around you to be a dictator. You have to have the media completely on your side. You have to have the courts and the justice system on your side. And if you look at what's happening with Trump, I mean, he's been being shot at and scrutinized by the media and by everybody else for forever. So it doesn't even qualify as a dictatorship.
He's the punk rock guy.
Right.
He's the punk rock guy. Yeah, he's the dude against the machine. He's the modern day hippie. And it's nuts. It is. And he keeps calling them Trump's against immigrants. It's like, you fucking idiot. You live in New York. Your entire fucking city and state is being destroyed, not by immigrants. It's being run by immigrants. It's being destroyed by illegal aliens.
Yeah. And the thing is, too, is you have these idiots like AOC that are on there. That's like, oh, if the problem's undocumented illegals, then we just need to document them. Like, no fucking shit. There's a system for that. And that's like being like, hey, they were stealing stuff. And so the problem is we just need to give them free stuff. It's like, what the fuck? That's idiocy. That makes zero sense.
I wasn't allowed to work at Noble or send my kids to school or go into a restaurant unless I got the injection. But they let millions cross the border without the injection.
Right.
Now they have over 2,000 kids not going to school in upstate New York to house illegal aliens. It's just the kids are just taking the crazy brunt of this too.
Yeah,
crazy brunt of this.
It's nuts. Well, they have to be, so that way they're conditioned to certain things, so they're not going to question those beliefs of the system that they're in.
I just lost audio.
I cannot believe anyone even listens to Stern anymore. Caleb. What'd you say, Caleb?
I hear you.
Caleb lost his audio for some reason.
Oh, I can't even believe anyone listens to Stern anymore. It's so bad, and it's so once again, it's so surface.
Yeah,
it's so surface.
It's fucking nuts. It's nuts. And again, that's
it's the Reddit crowd. It's the Reddit crowd.
Yeah, and that's the reason why for me, like I was saying, as far as like I need that really large mission that like fires me up, because that type of stuff fires me up. Like that type of stuff makes me want to work harder and longer. So that way we're able to find our like people and bring them together in one show or one piece of media where we could have discernment in what we're talking about, as opposed to and to push back against this fucking ridiculous narrative.
I saw the Vivek endorse Trump.
Did you see it? Did you see the little snippet of the speech?
I listened to it this morning. Yeah, I listened to it.
Dude, it
was good.
He's a fucking strategist, bro. He's a strategist. You think he had that plan? You think Vivek had that planned all along?
I don't know, but it just makes me so sad that the country doesn't want someone as ambitious and as young as him.
Dude,
it bums me out.
But think long term. Like, I'm not the hugest Trump guy. Like, I think there's a lot of areas for improvement in that. Like, I don't want that people to conflate that with me being crazy pro Trump. But in terms of Vivek, I think it was the smartest option that he basically had, because he's got his sights set on 2028. So if he comes in now and he's able to not have to go against or divide the MAGA crowd, if you will, the Trump supporters, but he could also reach a younger base due to his age and some of the ideas that he has, it's just positioning him for a really great long-term outcome for himself. And so that's why I think it was a really genius plan in his sense, is to build up all his popularity, show that he's the serious player, he has credibility, and he's not going anywhere. And then to go around and then reverse that and fully endorse Trump, I think for him ended up being a smart play.
A friend of mine heard a surgeon speak yesterday, a brain surgeon. And the brain surgeon was talking about brain trauma and the effects of having brain aneurysms. And when you have a brain aneurysm and they do a surgery on you, what it does is they remove a little piece of your brain, I guess, that the damage that's done to your brain is the part that allows you to understand social nuance and to not do things like snip little kids' hair and not say stuff like, if you don't vote for me, you're not, or if you don't vote for me, you're not black.
Jeez. Dude.
And guess who's had 2 brain aneurysms?
Yeah. Well, here's the crazy part.
The big guy, because basically we're seeing the real Joe Biden. He's got no filter. Homeboy's busted.
Yeah. I mean, look at the state that it's in. Like, I just see it as, everybody says and preaches like tolerance, right? Like that should be a cornerstone of a value that you have, is tolerance. And I also see tolerance as setting the standard. And so what I mean by that is, like, if I'm tolerating a bunch of bullshit in my gym, if I'm tolerating gossip, if I'm tolerating clicks, if I'm tolerating inefficient movement, my coach is not coaching, that's our standard, right?
Right.
And so that's what at some point you have to stop focusing on tolerance and say, hey, we're not going to tolerate this type of shit. I'm not going to tolerate fucking Weekend at Bernie's president that's being coached out there. And if you were ever thought that the president was in charge of anything, these last 4 years or 3 years shows that he ain't in charge of fucking shit. He's not even in charge of probably when he shits himself, dude. It just comes.
I will tell you, his character is contagious. Basically, we see that there's have you ever had a teacher who has no command over the class?
Yep.
And so all the kids start walking over him, and next thing you know, people are like changing their grades in the teacher's grade book and walking in and out of class.
Yep.
And it's all because the teacher has no strength. That's basically what we're seeing.
Yes. Yeah.
We're seeing we have a leader with no strength, and that even feigned strength, even if the president doesn't have true power, even if he doesn't, his feigned strength gives a structure to the civilization. And we don't even have that now. No,
it's crazy. And you're right. As far as go back to like the teacher, like I went into one of the local high school gyms here, and I was watching, and fucking half this basketball team was training in Crocs and slides, and they're headed out to the track. And I look over and I'm like, what the fuck is happening? I said, if this was my classroom, you would not be doing shit in your slides or your fucking Crocs. I go, that's the standard here.
Yeah, you'd be taking them off and doing burpees while everyone else who came in the right shoes got to do other shit.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just think that that's where we're at. We're tolerating way too much as a country. And the question is like, now if you have these American values of standing up for what's right and pushing back against the government so the government is accountable to us and not the other way around, that now all of a sudden you're a racist or you're dividing or you know, all these labels that they want to put on you. And the only alternative to that is just to shut up and sit down and take what you're being told. And that's never been the American ethos or the American way. And I just hope it's not too far gone.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's the future's bright.
Future looks bright.
Fully, dude, I fully believe. I mean, fucking my future's bright. I fully believe the future's bright. Shit's looking fucking great.
I completely agree. And then when we're all fucking
I think
millionaires,
shit's looking amazing.
when we're all millionaires, we'll have the resource to take this fucking media machine that we're creating and point it at anything we want.
Hey, what do you think? Shifting gears here.
Yep.
You believe that line? I heard it the other day from Miranda Alcaraz. I'd said it before, and I did an argument with people before that like being obese is contagious, smoking's contagious.
Yep.
I think everything's contagious, and that's why it's so important to be a good person,
Yep.
not play the victim. But and I heard Miranda say character is contagious, right?
Right.
So if you let's say you have a boss at the top who like let's say you're in a group of friends and one of your friends is cheating on his wife, that causes instability. Your wife doesn't want you to be friends with the guy who's cheating on his wife because that in turn causes that character is contagious, right?
Totally. I mean,
when I think of, go ahead.
No, I was just going to echo that and say, yeah, there's that line that you're the sum of the 5 closest people you hang out with.
There you go. Oh, sorry. Before I finish that thought, I want to go back to something you said with Greg.
Yep.
When he said that when MBAs can't actually do anything, that's the way the two of you were articulating that was exactly what I've been trying to articulate about CrossFit for the last 2 or 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
They have nobody who can actually do anything. They have no one who can actually make stuff that act like what we're doing. They don't have anyone who can go on the StreamYard. They don't have anyone who can make videos. They don't have anyone who can edit. They don't have makers there. They don't they just have waiters and tables and menus. They have no chefs. That's the problem. It's all, and it's that MBA mentality. That's what no matter how much you explain it to those people, they don't understand because they come from Harvard and Stanford MBAs. And it's just all rhetoric bullshit.
Man, I forget who put it in the comments. It was one of the regulars, but they said something like that. The MBAs can't create. I forgot what the line was, but it was perfect. It articulated what you're saying exactly. And here's the other thing too. I don't think Don Fall has as much autonomy as one might think he does as the CEO. When you picture CEO, you figure you're the guy, the buck stops with you, right? Yes, Kevin, thank you. They value capture, not creation. Yes, that is it.
What's that mean? Explain that to me.
So all they're trying to do is squeeze every last dime that they can out of it. They just want to capture as much value, right? In this sense, the sense of profits, the sense of revenue, and they're not creating anything. And you could see that the perfect example of that is Steve Jobs to Tim Cook. It's a perfect example because Apple was at the head of innovation. They were creating all this stuff. Steve Jobs was the visionary. When he died and he passed it on to Tim Cook took it from like whatever it was, a couple $100 billion valuation and made it into like a $3 trillion company because all he did was continue to capture value. But we all know nothing new or amazing has come out of Apple since Steve Jobs has been gone.
You mean like the App Store? The App Store basically is just a capture of revenue.
That's right. Anything they do,
30% from everyone. Yeah.
A new phone every single year, and it's got incremental changes and updates to it, but there's nothing life changing. There's no breakthrough there. We're not having an iPod moment.
Or look at Google, one of the biggest companies in the world, if not the biggest. In our membership, the services offered that we can offer people in terms of membership are just pathetic. The back end sophistication is pathetic. What we have.
Oh, in terms of what YouTube does.
Back there, there's nothing creative. Yeah, in terms of what you do. In terms of what we can offer people, it's just fucking pathetic.
That's right. Yeah.
They have no one innovating back there. Hey, isn't that amazing? Also, like that's completely untapped for YouTube. Think of how many movies and all that shit iTunes sells and Netflix. YouTube is poised perfectly to take over all that space.
Yep.
And they can't.
Yep. Because I think they still want to be able to control the narrative. And so they're focused more so on the censorship and how they're able to do that than they are on letting creators just create and go and finding more robust tools to continue to help push what they're doing. Would be my guess.
I've heard Don say that he wants to change the culture of HQ.
Yeah.
And after seeing what was done at Wadapalooza, the stuff that HQ put out, I see that the culture is actually taking a step backwards. It's actually, if that's the change he wanted, he went in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
5 or 6 posts. They don't tag Wadapalooza once. There was no mass promotion. Like think of just the way all of us in the locker room mass promote each other. Why wouldn't CrossFit put a maximum horsepower into promoting Wadapalooza? It's the largest community event outside of the CrossFit Games. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, for sure.
Why wouldn't they fully support that? Why wouldn't there be a post every hour? Why wouldn't they be tagging Wadapalooza nonstop? Why did they have one of the largest booths at Wadapalooza? It's probably $40,000 booth, I'm guessing. They had 7 media people there, and none of their posts have Wadapalooza tagged. As a matter of fact, their way to kind of bury Wadapalooza, like they're threatened by it. Why did they even go there then? It's bizarre to me. I cannot figure it out for like me. But meanwhile, in our group, in the locker room, we all take turns promoting each other. I don't know if you've seen, but between our media team, between all the people, Copy Pods and Wads, Hiller, Heat One App, Barbell Spin, Get with the Program, all those people, it's like over 300,000 views, not to mention the fucking hundreds of thousands on social media. Those are just on on personal websites.
Right.
And why? Because we all supported each other.
Yes.
We all tag the fuck out of each other and are constant. Like we use our platforms to promote the other platforms and vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, I would definitely
Why not do that?
I would definitely say we all uplift each other, but at the same time, I would also say that we're all creators. Every single person this is why I feel so lucky to be a part of that
taking
group.
Pictures, writing, going on podcasts, Spin does everything.
Bro, everybody in there is in a pursuit of something, right? And they're creating and they're problem solving in real time, and they're able to continue to advance everything. And that's why it's such an awesome group to be a part of. But at the same time, we understand that there's abundance and we uplift each other because it's helping one helps all, right? And and so it's cool to be a part of it. But I think you're right. I don't think, just going back to the culture with CrossFit, I think that when you have a company that's has been 5 CEOs in the last 3 years. You went from like Dave to Rosa to Allison to
you can even count Greg in there.
Right. So when you have that much of leadership changing hands, you don't have everybody who's in the boat rowing in the same direction at the same time. You have everybody who's jockeying for position for self-preservation. And so,
to be fair, that's the way it was my last 2 years there too.
Absolutely.
And don't forget Jeff Kane. So 6 CEOs. You're right. When they put in, you're right.
And so,
you're right. They were jockeying. We were all like, we were more than jockeying for position. Everyone's terrified they're going to lose their jobs.
Right. And so, and at the same time, if you're terrified that you're gonna lose your job, how much of you is going to go out and innovate and try new ideas and take risks?
No, you don't even want to talk. You're scared.
Dude, you just want to fall in line and check the box and make sure that you're doing your job well enough to where you don't cause too much of a ruckus, right? And so when that's happening, especially because all their people are remote, I don't think that there is a culture. And I could be wrong because I'm on the outside looking in. Yes, please.
There was a video I made, just shot with my iPhone, of Avi doing squat grace 3 years ago. Right. It's the 16th most popular video with 42,000 views on CrossFit in the last, let's say, 4 years. Mm-hmm. Hiller saw that and goes, "Hey, can you have Avi do squat grace again? And I'm going to put it together." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Hey, what do you think about just offering that to CrossFit? Just like, because to mend some bridges, right?" Yeah, an olive branch, if you will. Yeah, cut the two together. He's all, dude, absolutely. He may have even said I was thinking the same thing. I can't even remember. I'm like, okay. He cuts the two together. He offers it to them,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't air it.
Yeah.
Makes no fucking sense to me.
I mean, I also think
it's a slam dunk.
Right. And it's already made from at $0 cost. All you got to do is publish.
Yes.
You just got to publish
it. and he showed them the model. If they have limited resources, go back to anyone who's done a workout video in the past.
Yep.
Go to Dan Bailey and be like, hey, Dan, can you set up your iPhone and do Grace as fast as you can? And we want to put it on the, like, he showed them something that will generate massive views. Go back and pick all the biggest videos. Have Annie do it. Have Greg Amundsen do it.
Right.
Do a whole series. Where are they now? It will cost you nothing. These people can shoot in their iPhone. It shoots in 4K now. I mean, it's truly unbelievable, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
it's mind-boggling to me.
And I think
I'm glad that we're contributing, though. The behind the scenes is going to elevate to level 1. It's going to be the largest open in history, and I'm glad that we have a part in it.
Yeah, and I just think it goes back to the thing where, like, if everybody is fearful and we don't really know who has the autonomy to do different things or to take risks or to take chances, or there's a lot of red tape, meaning I have to get permission from so-and-so, then they have to get permission because they have this or that going on, that you've killed the what I thought was the biggest asset that CrossFit as a company, even as a crew, had, which is its ability to be nimble and to execute very quickly. And
no, you nailed it, nimble. And when Don was on the podcast, he said, hey, we need to measure things and get the data before we move forward. I'm like, careful, dude. Making content is so cheap. If you wait around for collecting data on what's important, you're going to miss out.
Yeah. And it's turned it into a slow-moving machine.
And you nailed it. It appears that they're not nimble and that they're not able to execute. And you're right. And that they're scared. They're acting from a place of fear.
And it's not, and I want to make this clear, like, it's not against people personally that are working in CrossFit. I mean, I think that there's a lot of talent within that group, but if they're not able to express that talent or given the freedom to do stuff without being in fear of losing their position or getting some sort of political thing happening internally within the company of like, we have this set, you did this, and this screwed us up. Then they're not going to be able to pull something out of it.
I agree. I totally feel for the people who work there. I stopped the CrossFit podcast. It was probably one of the most successful pieces of media we've ever made that year. I stopped because I was told that indirectly, I was told that the CEO, Jeff Kane at the time, hated it and they were going to fire me if I kept doing it. And I stopped it out of fear.
Right.
I totally feel for those people. Yep.
Yeah.
And I froze and I wasn't able to produce anything for 2 years.
Yeah. I remember
from 2018 to 2020. You're absolutely right. And I was senior there and I froze.
Yeah.
So I don't, I'm not blaming anyone directly either. It's, but that culture there, man, dude, you should never be afraid to uplift your competition ever.
I'm bringing something up on the screen real quick because I just want to show this is a recommendation.
God, this is so much better not seeing the comments. I'm just driving, looking at a map.
Yeah. There's a book.
I'm so much clearer in my thoughts.
There's a book written by Reed Hastings, and he was the founder and first CEO of Netflix. And Erin Meyer is also in the book, and she was was head of HR, but they actually didn't call it HR because they didn't want her to operate as an HR. And the book's called The No Rules Rules, Netflix and the Culture of Reinvention. And the reason why I bring that up is because if you read that book and you find that the culture and the freedom that the staff had to allow them to do their job, you now understand why Netflix was able to keep up with demand, scale, and innovate at the pace that they were able to innovate. And inside that book too, they talk about, hey, if Sevan's working for us and we're giving him control of media, all as we do is say, hey, here's your budget, go for it. And as we figure it out and as we need to make adjustments, we'll make adjustments. And that's why Erin Meyer was so important into that, because she had to curate that culture and let people go really quickly that weren't able to fit inside of it. They didn't have to get their budgets approved. They didn't have to go through all this red tape. They were given the freedom to do what they thought was best, to continue to innovate and continue to move that company forward. And then if for some reason they saw that they took advantage of that, they were cut out.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. My job as head of media was to protect people like Heber and Mars and let them fucking produce at a fucking rapid, insane pace, do whatever they wanted, and protect them from anyone in admin who might slow them down. To give them all the money, cameras, Heber, Mars, Dave Barrett, Harry Peterson, Torin, everyone, give Mike Kozlap. My job was to protect their ability to create and to trust them. And they did. And we murdered.
And they knew.
That's exactly right.
And
I didn't micromanage. They were CrossFitters through and through.
Well, at that point, your job wasn't to manage them. The job was to protect them. So then that way they could protect
them. Yep.
And their job was and they were able to shake the fear of like, hey, if we take this risk or we do this thing here, we're not just going to get the axe, and Sevan will have our back in accordance with like, hey, let's give these guys a little bit of space and let's see what works, and then we'll adjust from there. Right.
Yeah.
And so I think now under the current structure that the company's in, and again, I'm on the outside looking in, so what the fuck do I know? But from what I've seen, it doesn't look like they have that freedom at all. And it was funny. One of the first things I had said, you were one of the first people that I told outside of my wife, my family and stuff. And I can't remember when it was, but it's very early in our relationship. And I said, hey, yeah, I started going to those DDCs and I wanted to get really close with Greg because I knew at some point that CEO title was going to have to move from him to somebody else. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be CEO of CrossFit. And
I remember that.
And
hey, if you don't dream big things won't happen.
100%.
And maybe you still will be the CEO of CrossFit someday.
Well, now it's funny because I would rather be I'd rather have a board seat.
Oh, interesting.
I don't want to be the CEO anymore. I'd rather have a seat on the board. I'd rather have 2 seats on the board and more votes than some of the other people, than the managing partners over at Berkshire. So that way we can make some bigger decisions and move things forward. And so I don't know. That was like funny to me because now it's like, as things change and it's moved towards more of like this, business as usual type structure rather than the way that it was originally when Greg was at it. It's funny how that changes, right? And then now if I was at a board seat, I would still have to deal with however many people are sitting on the board, and for terms of making a single decision, as opposed to having the autonomy to sit at the helm and say, this is the direction we're going, we're going to commit to it, and let's roll. And go ahead.
By the way, Jennifer Say, the brand president over at Levi Strauss, she said the exact opposite, by the way, and that worked for her. Her thing is, when she took over as brand president, she said there were a bunch of people with autonomy in the marketing department. And what she did is she got everyone on the same page. I didn't have to do that because Greg got everyone on the same page because he was such a strong leader and kept sharing the vision. So as long as I could get the vision, Greg's vision, to the people, then it was fine. And everyone could still have their autonomy. So there was a little bit of a tweak. Hers was not like that. I'd also say this, the con of that is that I created the hardest working group of prima donnas fucking the world's ever seen. My crew, because I protected them so much and I gave them so much, were insatiable, and it was almost impossible to make them happy. They always wanted more, and I was always striving to give them more. But that's when you're leading talent, that's one of the things you have to deal with. You have to be able to deal with that, and they all deserved it. No one was a prima donna undeservedly.
Right.
They were all fucking like powerhouses. Yeah, everyone was dope.
Yeah, crazy talent within that
group.
Look,
they went on to do great shit. I mean, look at Heber and Mars. Yeah.
Right, 100%. And it's funny that you said, like, when you were interviewing Jennifer, that she had to pull everybody together to get everybody on the same page. And that's what you do not need to do when you have a strong visionary like Greg. Just to echo kind of what you were saying.
Right,
it's like everybody was on the same page. They all came home. That's what they knew. They wanted to carry that mission, and they wanted to get that vision out to as many people as possible. And they believed it. And most of them still do to this day, to their core. So when you have a strong visionary like that, there's not really much you need to do in terms of alignment with people. You just let them run with it. And then Greg just continues to preach that message. I vision Greg being somebody as CrossFit that, like, as he walks around the office and when he was in there, if you stood next to him for long enough, he just started going off on the vision and the direction of the company. And you were
Yes,
like, okay, this is
always. It was
awesome, but I got to go do my
always.
job now. Right.
Yes.
And that's exactly
yes.
who you want. You want somebody who is just constantly selling you their vision, constantly telling you the direction of the company, constantly striving for more and more and more. And then that way you never have to worry about direction. You never have to worry about, hey, where's this thing going? What's our initiative here? Like, what are we actually doing? Because he was it. He was telling you exactly what it was, and they were all there to do it.
100%.
Yeah.
You nailed it. It was crazy. He was vomiting the vision endlessly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And doing amazing pieces that would, like 5 buckets of death, that would just completely charge the company. Community.
Yeah.
100%. Just completely charge the base.
Yeah. And that's another piece of it, right? Like I was attracted to that vision that Greg had. I didn't work in the company. I never even got to see the upstairs of HQ, which was a bummer because I would have loved to have been able to tour that. But I got it, and I understood it, and I did what I needed to do to get close to it.
Oh, you guys got to roll up the windows. I'm getting that roof vibrating. Please. Thank you. Oh, we rented a Lincoln Navigator.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So it's a brand new Lincoln Navigator. It's so much nicer than my fucking 2016 Toyota Sienna. I love my Sienna. I ain't shitting on it.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Man, now, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Hey, so you're going to be back.
Guys,
Go ahead.
I also want to add this. You guys are going to be absolutely blown away at what Patrick Rios is putting together from Wadapalooza. I'm so thankful to Tier Wadapalooza for giving us the access they did. They gave us crazy access, and we took maximum advantage. And this innovation of miking the athletes, you guys, I'm so excited for. And Jason Hopper and Dallin and Colton took advantage of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They didn't waste the opportunity.
Yep.
And you guys are going to be just tickled.
Man,
when you see this stuff.
The little bit that we've been getting sent back to us with Rios has me so pumped. Like, not only is this going to be awesome, but I just love when we stretch the capability of what's been happening, when we innovate and it goes as well as it did. And it's just like, fuck yeah, that's going to be awesome. People are going to love it. And then I love sitting back and watching everybody else have to scramble to keep up.
Yeah, I am curious who's going to start doing that next.
It'll be a little bit, because I think one of the issues is that a lot of the creators in the space, and this is not shitting on them, so do not take this wrong, it's about them. It's not about the athletes. It's not about what's happening. Gotcha. It's not about what's happening. Okay. And so I think that to make that transition will be tough.
I hope they don't do it.
Yeah. I don't know if that fits what they're trying. Like, I don't see Heber and Marsh doing this, because that show is about them. It's about the athletes as well too, but that show is about them. Like, you're on the journey with them, and they like to find things that they do with content, right? Like, so they'll go out and do these crazy challenges or different things like that, because that becomes the meat and potatoes of what you're watching. That is what they're creating the content around. And it's really tough to do what you do and just interview them and allow the people's story to be the content. And I think that's why the behind the scenes was always so successful, was because, like Jason from CF Media said, when he was like, hey, these guys will tell you who to watch and who's going to win, but the behind the scenes tells you why you need to care. And that was like,
I like that.
Such a great line as to sum it up, because you're right. We're building relationships with these athletes, and the athletes that are smart, I'm going to go on some real quick right here. The athletes that are smart will get fucking close, and they will allow us to do it. We will make you superstars. The ones, especially those fucking agents that want to tell you, don't go on, don't associate, they are fucking you. They have no idea about a long-term vision. They are trying to play it safe in their eyes, and they're leading you down the wrong path. Because as you will notice with Tia, and as you will notice with Matt, that you could be at the absolute peak of this sport for years, have all the attention. In the year that you are gone, that drops by 50%. Year 2, you're irrelevant unless you are continuing to do stuff in the space. So athletes that are listening to the show or listening to the segment, please take advantage of us. Use us to your advantage, okay? And I'm not talking about early heats. I'm talking about final heat.
Take advantage, and let me tell you who did take advantage, who was never a champion and is still relevant. Josh Bridges.
Yeah, exactly.
And he took huge advantage of that, right?
Dude, we fucking loved watching that guy behind the scenes. And him just being him, you fell in love with him. And that is something that's evergreen, and that's why he's been able to capitalize on his space in the CrossFit community for as long as he has, and then even pivot and change to more of his military training and everything else, and continues to have good success.
And I bet you Colton's dog sales are going to double this time.
Yeah, he's gonna be a superstar.
Even I want a weenie now. Even I want a teeny weenie.
Even you're considering a purchase there.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for taking over the show and holding the epic standard that the Sevan Podcast has and just hitting the home run. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for Caleb for coming
you're
in
the
here
man.
and rocking it out with me. And
you guys are the two best partners a guy could have. I just love fucking having you guys, seeing you guys every day, talking to you guys every day.
No, likewise, brother. All right.
Thank you, Caleb.
Down.
No problem. Safe travels.
Caleb gonna do a show by himself.
Yeah, buddy. He's ready. He's ready. He's ready. There's never a ready, Caleb. You just got to get out there and do it. All right. I will talk to you later.
Tomorrow we're supposed to have Denise Moore on. She has an amazing, wild story. I just don't think. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do Denise Moore tomorrow at 7 a.m. because I don't even know if I'm going to make it to Idaho. You know what I mean?
Really?
I don't know if I'm going to have to stop at a hotel. Dude, it's just the freeways littered with like storm warnings, the Apple app. So let's just stay in constant communication. We may have to move her.
Okay.
I really want to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Really, it's an amazing story. It's an amazing, amazing story. You guys are going to be blown away at the adversity she's overcome and persevered and not played the victim and just crushed. I just don't know if I don't know what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, let's just play it by ear. Let's see when you get there, what the setup's like. And then she's listening to the show right now. So what we'll do is if for some reason we don't think that we could pull that off, we'll stay in close contact with her and I'll get her immediately scheduled up to the next available date that we have.
All right.
Cool.
Love you guys.
All right.
Talk to you guys later. Caleb, later. Susan, bye.
Later. All right. Awesome. Okay. 2 hours, 26 minutes. Damn.
Wow.
Hey, how much can you bench press? Like a max?
Probably over 250. Last time I checked, it was 250, and that was like a year or two ago, I think.
I'm still waiting to find somebody that could bench press less than me myself.
I do a lot of push-ups though, so that's probably why. But
dude, we had this workout yesterday. It was like, oh, fuck.
225 at least.
Yeah, at least.
Okay.
I think I've hit like 205. It's not good. It's definitely, put it this way, dude. This is gonna be bad. I could snatch more than I could bench press. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't snatch for shit. So
I've snatched 225 a few times, and I've snatched 225 a few times. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Caller, welcome to the show.
Hey, what's up?
How's it going? What's your name?
Edgar. How are you?
Edgar, what's going on, brother? I'm great. How you doing today?
Doing all right. Missed you both at Woodapalooza. I know you were dealing with something else, and Caleb was dealing with his snow or whatever he was.
Yeah. Frozen icicles off his mustache.
Finally got my CEO gear yesterday, a little bit late, but I got it.
Nice.
Something else. Pedro looks totally different in person, man.
What do you mean, good or bad? Good or bad?
I mean, he seems like he has lost some weight.
Yeah.
Too soon, too fast.
Too soon? What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
I don't know. When you lose weight too fast, you seem wiggle a bit. Something that CrossFit will fix, but you know how it is.
Yeah. Well, he's been pretty strict on his meat and fruit only diet. I mean, when I was with him in October, when we were at J.R. Howe's Crash Crucible, he was strict to that. I don't know if you guys saw his thing. I was not. I've had a term sugary soup at mine. But yeah, man, he's been on it for a while, and I think it's one of those things like if you see him a lot and normally he's sitting in the chair and then you see him in person, it might seem like that's happened relatively quickly, but I've been watching his journey and stuff like that. So I don't think it's been as quick. And also now he's on this 100 burpees a day thing. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of meeting JR. Everybody, the whole team. I had the pleasure of, meeting some of the athletes as well. The experience was really awesome. I cannot complain. First time I attended to Wodapalooza, thanks to my wife that decided to gift me that for my birthday. So we finally made it happen.
That's awesome.
And I'm stoked. I'm already planning to go next year, honestly speaking.
Oh, that's amazing. Hey, how was it meeting everybody like from our crew here? Was anybody a douchebag to you?
Not really. I had a pleasure of having a long conversation with Pedro, the Heat One app team entirely, including the back end guy, the one dealing with the applications on the behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
I had a pleasure of giving some feedback on whatever I saw could work. They were really open to hear whatever we had to say. Took some pictures with the whole team after the podcast, stay with them basically for about an hour and some change while the podcast was going on live. The team was awesome. I mean, nothing to complain about.
That's awesome. That makes me happy. Yeah, those guys in our crew that we roll with are really good people. And I know anytime they get around people that want to talk or like have a conversation, they generally like lend their time. And when people like Tyler Watkins is asking for feedback on the app, that's like super genuine. Like he really wants to hear from your perspective because he's not interested in protecting his ego. He's interested in creating something awesome for people.
That's what I sensed myself as well, because they were open enough. And within the podcast, they say, hey, if you happen to have any feedback, that guy over there, if I'm not mistaken, his name is Brian or something.
Yeah.
That guy is the to-go person, whatever he has to say. And we certainly turned back to him and said, hey, I see this. And I even myself had some questions, saying he was open enough to explain whatever I had some confusions or some questions on.
Awesome.
Before I let you go, I've
Yes,
been
sir.
sending you through Instagram, both of you, this guy that has been taking a cold plunge for about 400 days right now. If you've seen it, awesome guy, awesome story. Check it out. Might be a good guest to have it on the podcast.
Awesome. We definitely will. Please send it over. I think I know who you're talking about, but send it over so I make sure it's the right one, and we'll see if we could get in contact with them. We appreciate the suggestion.
For some reason, I cannot send you messages, but Caleb has been seeing my messages. He has replied a few times.
Awesome. Cool. We'll hook it up and thank you, Edgar. Thank you very much, sir. Glad you had a great time at Wodapalooza.
Thanks, Edgar.
Bye, guys.
All righty, brother. Bye.
Bye.
Hold on. Where's Dan? God damn it. Dan Garrity. I'll never forget when Susan was a douchebag to me at Zellos.
Damn.
It is like, oh, that sucks to hear. I'm so sorry if that actually happened. Like, dude, I really try hard to like make sure that anybody that wants to spend a second saying hi or something like that, that I really try to like be present with them and like shake their hand and like say hi or, you know, give them a moment. Not give them a moment in that sense, but give them my time in that moment is what I mean to say there. And so that sucks that happened. I don't recall it at all. Because when you're big time like me, you don't remember those little things. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding. Dan, if next time I'm in contact with you, buddy, I'll give you like a CEO shirt or something like that and rock it out. Yeah, Tier Wodapalooza. Fuck, excuse me. Tier. Sorry.
Tier.
Is this the dude that Edgar was talking about?
Yeah, I think so.
Play it up.
Not today. Good morning, guys. It's day 365 of taking an ice bath every single day. And to celebrate, we're keeping it simple. I'm not going to be doing the moonwalk. I'm not going to be popping champagne bottles. And there's absolutely no way I'm going to light off fireworks just because we hit this milestone. It's just going to be me, you, and this ice bath, and we're going to finish this thing exactly how we started it. It's minus 6 degrees Celsius out here this morning. The water temperature is a balmy 1 degree Celsius. We're going to do 365 seconds in the ice bath this morning. And like always, my friends, it's going to be a good day.
Hell no.
Damn.
Yeah. No thanks. That looks horrible.
Ooh. Yeah, that takes some. Dan, I'll just take a standee next time. You got it. Cave Dastro, Souza acting like he's Leonardo DiCaprio. Yes, but specifically Leonardo DiCaprio and Wolf of Wall Street. Let's make that very clear. Not just like Titanic, Leo, or like any of the other ones, like Wolf of Wall Street, Leo. Okay, make it clear. Cross fat. Can we talk about Souza's hug etiquette? I don't know. Danielle seemed to be cool with it. So, all right, guys. I think we're gonna take off. Caleb, anything else want to add before we go?
Nope. Just that the new episode of Behind the Scenes is out. If you want to be a CEO member, go ahead and watch that. Otherwise, that's pretty much it.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for hanging out with Caleb and I. Hope you guys enjoyed some of the questions with Greg and the call with Sevan. We will see you guys tomorrow, I do believe. Denise, we will be in contact with you. If he's not able to make it, then we will definitely get you rescheduled soon. I appreciate everybody hanging out. Like I started the show with, thank you guys. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for always being here. Can't tell you how much it means to us. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.